This is the first time you join us. Welcome audibly. Welcome on Twitch, YouTube, and everywhere else as well. This is the Elder Scrolls podcast called The New Companions, where each week we have 3 new guests, up to 3 new guests, and we talk about all the things Elder Scrolls Online. And if you are listening on the internet, maybe you want to go and watch the brand new trailer that came out from E3 for the rest of the year for Elsweyr, where we've got 2 more DLCs and whatnot coming up in the future. And if you just joined us, hello. And we have some guests. First of all, Hero of None. How you doing? What's going on, dude?
How you doing?
What do you do? What do you do for Elder Scrolls Online? What do you do? Do you stream? Do you podcast? What do you do?
Stream casual, PvE, PvP, basically anything I can and feel like at the time. Mostly 9 p.m. Eastern, most every night.
Cool.
Well, not Tuesdays, Thursdays, but we're changing that too. So
awesome. So he does the streams. He does the stream stuff. Then we've got T the Khajiit. We've heard of T before. She's been here many times. Well, not many times. Not the show's not been here many times. How you doing today, T? Are you well? You good?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me back, especially for this.
Yeah, it makes sense. It'd be stupid not to. So what do you do, T? Is not everyone, people might not know you who listen audibly, or maybe they've tuned into Twitch for the first time, they've heard of the podcast. What do you do in terms of Elder Scrolls Online?
I'm a full-time streamer, and my main game is ESO. I've been playing the game for 5 years now, and I love it.
Damn. She knows all the things. All the things. Wow.
I know some things.
Some things. Vera Maelstrom Arenas is obviously your favourite thing. And dragons and Khajiit stuffs. That's just kind of a little bit of a joke. Anyway, ESOLorecast, and welcome as well, T and Hero of None. How you doing, my man? You good? You all right?
Hey, I'm good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
No worries at all. What do you get up to? What do you do with Elder Scrolls Online?
Well, so Elder Scrolls Online, or Elder Scrolls Lorecast, is my podcast where I go over lore from the games and talk about all sorts of stuff from, the Adrian, the beginning of the world, to all sorts of things going on in Elder Scrolls. And that's part of, Robots is the name I go by online, and that's part of the Robots Radio Network, where I've got a bunch of other shows and a bunch of other cool podcast hosts, and we do all sorts of fun stuff. And sometimes I stream for fun, but that's not my main gig.
Okay, so the ESO podcast stuff as well. Awesome. Good stuff. So all these guys do something on Twitch or other places. They've all got Twitters and stuff as well. If you do !TNC in the chat, and also we'll have this in the description for the audio version and everything else on YouTube and Twitch as well. You can find out some more information about those guys and you can follow their social medias. So yeah, Elsweyr. Wow. Trailer this past week as well, which was, okay, let's just start, right? Each person. I'm gonna start with Hero of None. In that trailer, what was the single most important thing? You have to pick one thing out of that trailer which you loved the most. What was it?
that I love the most.
Yeah, the most hype thing for you, where you were just like, "Oh God, what's this? Oh my God, this is gonna be amazing." Sorry.
Probably Chimera riding and then riding down the dragon. That was just nice action to it, nice feel to it. Yes, I love that part the most.
Okay. And Chimera is and there will be some spoilers today, guys. So if you haven't done the main quest line, and you don't want to be spoiled, and you're live in the Twitch stream right now and you're listening to this audibly again, you might want to save this podcast until you've done it. I just want to warn you, because we will be talking about it at different points in time. So just in case, maybe we can't really avoid, can we? We'll end up just talking about it. But go and do the main quest line. You're going to be okay. It's going to be fine. But yeah, Chimera was, that was a very exciting bit. I actually thought she's going to die. I was like, she's dead? Really? In the trailer?
And then you see a necro resurrection or something like that afterward. That would have been interesting.
Oh, that actually would have been pretty cool. bit harsh, I guess. Especially after we know what happened. Like, because I didn't know what I watched the trailer before I finished the story. So I was like, okay. Yeah, right? So she could probably die. Like, and it wouldn't have made, like, as much difference because I haven't really gotten to know her much and she's there. I guess she lived. Like, I knew she lived. Because, so the trailer, in a way, and I'll ask you guys as well. T, what was your favorite, I can bring that up afterwards. What was your favorite moment of that trailer? If you had to pick one.
The hiss.
Sorry?
I just liked the hiss.
The hiss? Oh, the hiss. Okay. So the Chimera kind of. I wonder if I can bring that up in the video actually. And I closed it. Rip. You can see gifs of that everywhere as well, by the way, on the internet. But yeah, actually.
I know you were doing a E3
coverage.
view party on your stream, and I did it for the Bethesda stream, and like my chat just went nuts.
I
bet
great. Actually. I'll see
Yeah, that is the best part. The hiss, so good.
That was cool. Indeed. So like the whole trailer was just like, the hiss. I mean, I asked you for a moment.
Yep.
I did ask you for a moment, didn't I? I'm trying to see if I can find the moment, see if I can bring it up on the video as well. Even though you'll be able to go back and look at the trailer.
It's right after he bullies the necromancer.
Oh, and it's the jump up, and she goes up. Okay, all right. I'll see if I can find it. Either way. Anyway, I'll ask ESOLorecast. Maybe I can find it and bring it up on the screen for you. What was your favorite moment of that?
Well, first I have to say that the hiss was going to be mine too, and T and I were chatting and during the pre-show about how the Khajiit think of dragons as just big cats. So in that context, you have the dragon hissing at her, and then she hisses back at the dragon.
Yeah,
yeah, I can do that too. So that's pretty awesome. But if I have to pick something else, I'm going to pick Sai Sahan showing up. Was cool. I was wait a minute.
Yeah.
What's he doing here?
Absolutely. That was.
Didn't I choose you? Didn't I choose to kill you? Wait, no.
Yeah, well, that's definitely coming up in our talk for sure. I mean, I was like, that was my personal favorite moment as well. Actually, the Sai Sahan bit, because I'm actually going to show this while we're talking about it. But there's the hiss. There you go. Sai, there you go. There's Sai. There's Sai as well. Comes back, and he's got the horn, obviously, and he's got the horn. That was a really bad phrasing. But he's like, so he's reformed. So if you don't know who Sai Sahan is, and again, this is a main story. A main story spoiler, I guess, like base game. But if you're going through it for the first time, you're a new player to Elder Scrolls Online, you have basically an option to potentially kill someone later on in the story, and he is an option, and that will come up in a bit. So that's why I was surprised to see him, which was like, but I remember there was something about Dragon Guard, whatever. But the Dragon Guard were. Was it the Dragon Guard that were in the main story, or was it someone else, or is he rebuilding the Dragon Guard? Because I know in the main story in Elsweyr, not the base game, you went through the whole Dragon. Was it the Dragon Guard base you went through in Elsweyr? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Dragon Guard, right?
Yeah, you went through the Dragon Guard base and you found out they said like this is the last Dragon Guard, but you find out that's the last Dragon Guard in northern Elsweyr. But they have all these other areas or other bases around there. They're going to contact and bring in more people. It should probably also be noted. Sai was in charge of the Dragon Guard before the events of the plane meld. Yeah. So he was already a Dragon Guard beforehand. So he's I guess reforming it afterward, but
or was he because he's been somewhere for ages? Like, where has he been? Is this what he's been doing? Is he been reforming?
He went on vacation with Lyris.
It depends. If you killed her, then I mean, this is the thing. I mean, I'm just like, who the hell? All right, that's a good thing to ask the chat, and I can tell you afterwards because I found an interesting poll as well. In the main quest line, and you can think about this if you're listening to this elsewhere. Who did you kill? Did you kill Varen in the main quest line, the base game? Did you kill Varen, Lyris, or did you kill Sai? Because actually, funnily enough, I found a poll on a forum, and it was 1,150 people that voted in this forum. Okay, it's still quite a big pool of people to take from, but 72% of people killed Varen. And then it was Sai.
Even in the chat, they're all saying Varen.
Yeah. Okay. My reasoning was it's all his fault to begin with.
Yeah.
If somebody has to pay the final price, he's kind of the guy.
Yeah, and I think like the whole couple thing, tugged at the heartstrings for probably most in some kind of way, shape or form,
right. And Sai goes through his own suffering, and he's very honorable, and Lyris is with you there from the beginning and makes her own sacrifices. Like, you kind of feel for those characters. Varen, you're like, dude, you were overstepping your boundaries, man. Trying to be a dragonborn. What are you thinking?
Amazing. Have you got?
But at the same time, though, you have Varen, who's supposed to be like the emperor, right? And the one person who supposedly has the right to the throne, and now you're choosing to kill him off and possibly his legacy. I don't know. That seemed a little bit out of all the people who seemed like the less impactful to events. Sai was probably the most to me, but that's just me.
It's true.
Until now.
Yeah.
Well, till now. And at the same time, though, I don't know that if you did kill Varen at the end of Hrothgar, more spoilers, you saw Varen anyways as a ghost or as a projection as well. So the idea that sacrificing one of them like gets rid of them entirely, it doesn't exactly hold true. I don't exactly understand what the sacrifice into the Amulet of Kings was supposed to do at this point, because they keep on breaking that rule for some reason.
Right. Because maybe they didn't expect people to connect to these characters so well and to be to enjoy them so well and to be so important for the future as well, because of that. Just how awesome. I mean, I guess they couldn't just make up new characters. I don't know. But we can maybe figure out how these guys can come back and like how it works out for us as the player as we play obviously into the next 2 expansions. But yeah, what I wanted to talk about as well from that trailer was the player character, actually. So we see the player character in numerous trailers, and he's in this one, he's the Necro, isn't he? He's the Colossus. He's the guy who gets up out of the rubble.
Well,
right?
This is the Breton hero.
This is him.
Is he the same? Is he the same exact character?
This is the player character, right? This is assumed to be the player represents. It's assumed as this is the representative, because he's at the beginning. He's in the first Elsweyr trailer, and he was in. I don't know.
Yeah, but the big thing with the Breton hero character was he was killed off in. Was it? He was killed off in one of the trailers, and now he's back. So he was presumed resurrected by Mana Marco.
Right. Okay. So he was in the original trailer, but he. Do we think he is representative of a player, of someone who is a player?
I'm not sure, but like I said, I thought it was an agent of the Worm King.
They said that they try and put a character that represents the player in each one. So like during the Somerset one, it was the Elven character.
Yeah.
And then in Morrowind it was the Warden.
That's right.
So so it just depends, I guess, on.
And then this one with the horse who gets smacked.
Well, this bit, I mean, on the screen right now is insane. Where you are the Colossus comes up, and the the CG, just the graphics of this and the way it looks, and he does not care. He's going like ham versus this dragon. It's like being, it's being chewed on, and the dragon's like a dog. It's just like, I want that bone, It's pretty immense. I mean, he just picks up, I don't know, he picks up this wheel, which is still attached to an axle, and starts wielding it in this dragon. It's insane. Obviously, he's not going to beat it, but he gets kind of rescued by a few different people as he gets changed. His cooldown, he's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
He can't be the Colossus forever. But yeah, that's kind of where Chimera comes in and is almost the one who really kind of... I feel like Chimera's kind of the savior of the player character in this trailer. It's pretty damn awesome.
Well, it justifies her capabilities and bravery. I like that.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome. Okay, I'm going to go through and make sure that I actually get all the things talked about, because we can probably go on for many times, many minutes about just individual characters. But I don't know, is everyone in the chat as well, and even when you listen to this, how many people haven't completed the main quest line in Elsweyr? You might want to ask your question, that question to yourself again, because there will be a lot of spoilers, and I'm going to keep saying that at various times, because I feel bad, because I hate hearing spoilers myself, so I'm just like... okay, be careful. But yeah, so obviously we released Fun and Chimera. We all kind of released these 3 dragons out into Elsweyr. And those 3 dragons, obviously through the main quest line, right, I'm gonna have to look at this because I've forgotten his name again. Khajiit is the lone survivor. The other 2 have been killed off. They're dead.
Mm-hmm.
They're done. Well, I mean, they bring back people in the future, I guess. But and one thing is obviously, we don't assume that these dragons have name. Like, that's just their name. It's Bob. It doesn't mean anything. But I just thought I would add this as a comment, and it's something which is interesting that I found. Apparently, Khajiit translates to champion bound or bind in time. As champion bound time. So it's champion bound in time. Which I just thought was an interesting thing. But the main quest line Elsweyr, you get to the end, and he's not dead, is he? Where is he? Do any of you guys know where he's gone? What's happened? What do you think happened there?
It's bound in time.
Yeah. Well, he got sent. He got sent up and supposedly got, rejected by Jonah and Jode's area, and supposedly he's going to be flying back from the moon back to Tamriel. That's the best way I could figure it out there.
Which raises all sorts of questions. Is there
that ending? Yeah, that ending was kind of rough. Yeah, that ending was kind of bad to me in a certain way, because you don't verify that he's left that area. So he could just be coming back after you leave and just oh, look, all this other energy is going to suck all this up. So, but you get back and you find out, well, now Abner's going to be going further south, and so supposedly that's probably where we're going to see him again. But, but what's who was the other one that you were fighting there with? Was it Mulamir, or is it?
It was Mulamir, yeah.
Yeah, his brother, quote unquote. Which you had that one translated too, didn't you?
Yeah, actually, I could go through the names of all of them. So there was, T, what did you think? What did you think about that end with the dragon with Khajiit? Did you like that ending? What do you reckon happened?
When I did it, I kind of laughed because it looked like they kind of like Team Rocket blasted off again. So I looked up and he just sort of just turned into a little dot in the sky. It didn't just vanish after a while. You just saw him just, who knows where he's gone. But I was I'm just happy they didn't just kill him. Because I'm we have to fight him. I want to fight this guy. He looks so cool. He was all fancy and glowing, and if you had to fight him, we were gonna get our butt kicked, and we totally are probably gonna get our butt kicked.
was
in
funny.
a hard mode, no depth dungeon thing in a couple months. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, isn't
Dramatic.
it like the classic way to end cap a story without it feels final, but still opens the possibility for future things? Isn't that kind of the whole idea?
Yeah, that's right. Is that how you kind of feel about it as well?
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of these stories, or at least you can tell early on, they didn't know how successful eventually ESO would be, and a lot of storytellers will purposely leave
Very true.
open threads in order to continue the story in some future way that they haven't decided how it's going to work yet, right? So now this one might be an open thread into the next chapter of the Season of the Dragon specifically, but then again, maybe it doesn't. Maybe this specific thread doesn't get wrapped up completely.
I don't think
it will.
Yeah, if you don't have a showdown with that dragon,
You can call him Carl. Call him Carl.
Carl.
Carl
Yeah,
Drago.
if you don't have an ending with him though, like so many people are going to be upset. They're going to be like, "What happened to this?" Like, there's so many open threads from the original base game that I'm still wondering about.
Right.
But this one is the Season of the Dragon. They have to finish that up, and
There has to be some sort of conclusion.
yeah.
I agree.
Okay. T, does that have to be a conclusion?
We actually talked about this a little bit in my stream too, about I think they are leading a lot of stuff, hopefully not just for the next 2 DLCs, but for the next chapter. Like, I'm pretty convinced we're gonna see more from the Imperial side of things. Like, I feel like that was left a little bit kind of incomplete. Like, the Khajiit stuff is like just the like the prefect and Tharn. I think we're gonna see both of them probably in the next chapter. Kind of how like Marwyn had, or Somerset had connections to Marwyn. I think whatever the next chapter is probably definitely gonna have a lot of connections to Elsweyr, and I wouldn't doubt if there was still some dragon stuff in there, because that's obviously been a big hit and they're cool. And they're also really good bad guys. So.
Well, it'd be kind of weird though. I'm gonna guess we're gonna have Admiral Tharn next DLC. But Admiral Tharn at the end of the main quest says he's going down to Palatine, which is basically southern Elsweyr. I don't think we're gonna see that much influence from Imperial side outside of the prefect and Abner, because like that down there has been secured by most of Khajiit. Like that's.
Oh, I meant more like for the next chapter.
Yeah, she means for the next year.
Less than the next.
Yeah.
There's probably some fallout with what happens with Euraxia too.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like Abner Tharn, they keep on hinting at his aging, maybe, or coming of limitations. Retirement, something. You can see that he's still brave. You can see that he's still giving it his all, but like, oh man, that portal spell took it out of me, or that kind of stuff.
I would have killed this dragon if I was younger and then had tea by lunch. Like,
okay. Right. And part of that's his own hubris, being like, well, I'm awesome and you need to know it. But like, I think there is a certain like he's wearing out or something. They're kind of hinting at some sort of end for him.
Poor guy. He's been
Yeah,
on,
he's been through a lot.
his family reputation's down the hole, and he's just like, I'd be pretty tired if I was him. But yeah, this happened. I mean, obviously, throughout the story. I mean, it was nearly kind of towards the end of each segment, I guess. It was like, kind of getting old. This is a kid's game now. This is for someone who isn't my age. I mean, I don't know how old he is exactly, I guess, but because I can't remember how long they live. Or he's different as well. He's flipping.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm thinking about more like as well. Like, has there ever been the case in history where Tharn has not messed something up? Like, Abner's probably the only one that's not. Like, he still messed up things, but he's better of most of his family.
I mean, he did release dragons,
but not intentionally. Like Euraxia. Well, I don't know if you could count Clivia. Clivia is like not. If you haven't played Imperial City, well, that's not actually Clivia Tharn, but she's supposed to be the regent, and then you have the other Tharns that were trying to take over Reaper's March. Then you had the Tharns that were inside Arena that were trying to take over. It's just like the entire Tharn family is supposedly all about Imperial and stuff, but like every time you meet them, they're doing something horrible to try taking over. It's like you can't be happy with this. Like, how do you even call yourself a noble family when you keep on having this many disgraces to it? You know,
maybe just like for a reputation of how like famous they are. Famously bad. I don't know. I don't know. Apparently,
does anyone else feel like the character model in Elsweyr for Abner Tharn has been working out?
I mean, he does.
Like,
It's the armor, isn't it?
It's the armor. He looks like buffer, like a battle mage should.
I mean,
like
he looks awesome.
Yeah, in the previous ones, I was like, he's kind of this kind of skinnier old man type body, but like in this one, it's like, I don't know. He's got like that Picard thing going on, like old man head, like young man body.
You mean he's bald? Or he's balding?
No.
Is that what you're saying? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. If you're listening to this, I am actually bald.
He's a bit of a Sean Connery, isn't he?
Yeah, so. Yeah. He's kind of got that like, I don't know.
Later on, we're gonna find out he's
word for that.
Later on, we're going to find out he's magically infusing his muscles so he can keep his vanity in his old age.
Probably. Right. There is probably something to do with mage is going to mage. Well, apparently, Rena Geek, who said in the chat, is that Abner is 164 years old and has at least 16 children. I mean, I know that's 164 years.
Yes.
Do they not have contraception in Madagascar? I mean, that's another conversation, obviously. Well. But Jesus Christ, 16 children! I can't even imagine that. There's no way people.
And knowing Abner, he'll probably say each one of those was like another political child that I had just to appease some family.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally contraception was what, like goat splatters? So maybe that or magic. That's about all they had.
Is that actually a thing?
Yeah.
No, that's really a thing.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't even know that. That's amazing. I learned so much every time I do this.
Really romantic stuff.
It is. It's wonderfully beautiful. Honey, and he would have. It's a battle mage, for God's sake. I mean, he would be able to.
The goat splatter.
Go get the goat splatter.
Jesus Christ. It's amazing. I'd rather the magical side, thank you.
I've got a bad image here. Like, she puts on contraceptive. She puts on contraceptive, and he's just like, I'm a battle mage. I can just dispel that right off. Like,
that's why there's 16 kids.
This is the worst. Okay.
That's why he's the most powerful battle mage.
Oh, God. I'm sorry, kids, if you're listening.
Who needs a staff like that when you have my own staff? I am Abner Tharn.
Oh my
God. Okay. It's getting a bit racy now. And let's get back to the podcast.
Yes, please.
Oh, no. Okay, right. Cool, I'm a little bit warm now. Okay, so the other, we were talking about dragons. The other two, if you're interested, whether you're listening or you're watching, the other two translations, I'm trying to find them, were for the first dragon who we see is Barlockdan. Barlockdan? I think that's how you say it. Bar means wrath, Lock means sky, and Dan or Dan means doom, fate, destiny. Ill-fated or unavoidable. So like the first dragon is technically called, I guess Wrath, Sky, Doom. I was just like
the unavoidable wrath of the sky.
Yeah, or something like that, from the sky, or some way of translating that. But I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, it's not a bad dragon. I mean, I love the fact that there are people that can, because there is a website where you can actually go and translate dragon language to human language.
Note to self: any future children, dragon names.
Yeah, yes. Absolutely, absolutely. And Mulamnir is Mol or Mu, which is strong, and then Arm, which is serve or to serve, and then Near is hunt or to hunt, depending on verbs and whatnot. So strong servant to hunt, enemies.
Strong servant hunter.
Whatever. Yeah, something like that.
Strong hunter servant. It's the guy who follows you around and gives you your arrows.
Yeah.
Like your caddy.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. That's actually a thing? Is that actually a thing, or are you just making that up right there?
No, I'm just making it
Oh,
up.
flipping out. Okay, I thought it was a thing. I don't know. It could have been. You could have just kept rolling with it.
It's like your hunter caddy. He comes behind you and here's another arrow, sir.
See, I like that, actually. Damn, now I'm upset.
But that name makes sense that he's like subservient or like a little brother to Khajiit, so
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah, I love that part of the whole lore of the Hades dragons actually have their names are actually kind of relevant to their position, I guess. Well, I kind of feel bad for the first one because he dies quite early, doesn't he? I think he dies quite early on.
he dies in the fight for Riverhold. So you fight him one-on-one after they bring him down.
That's right, I remember.
He's already weakened
He
because
roasts a bunch of cats, so I don't feel
Oh
too
yeah, when you're coming through on the ground level and they're up the top, up to the right hand side, and Chimera jumps down. Is that what the
Yeah.
dragon? Right.
bad. Yeah, they're like, yay! Then all of a sudden it's like, I'm like, oh no.
Oh god, they did get absolutely destroyed. That is true. Chimera is like an absolute beast, though, like literally. And like in terms of surviving things, I mean, she has ridiculous reactions because she survived that. She was there, wasn't she, on that ledge when the rest of the Khajiit are walking along again in the main story quest line. In this, you go into this instance, the Riverhold one. I think other people are in there as well. Other players can go in. You get towards the end and the dragon's flying around and he just kind of blasts this group of which Chimera is in, just flame blast, and they literally just disintegrate in front of your eyes, well, up on the ledge. But I don't know if you can actually see Chimera kind of jump down, but she's in this group.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, she jumps off the back end and you see like she goes out of frame and then she blasts them with fire and everything else like that. And she mentions I don't jump off where I can't leap, and I also have sharp claws, implying that she jumped off and clawed into the side of the cliff while that thing was breathing fire.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I that dungeon was actually an interesting one to delve. But I think that's like the first time I noticed with this particular expansion, they really paid attention to like lighting and animation effects compared to almost any of the other expansions. Like, did you notice like when you were going through, you saw the shadows going on the rock faces?
Mm-hmm.
It was very cinematic. I loved it. They really did a good job with like just framing stuff that was going on in game instead of making you stop and look at stuff. It was happening in real time while you were running around. That was always, I felt like, kind of a weakness in the base game, and they've just been improving on that so much.
It's true. Bring up a good point. It was very good. It was very cinematic. I actually found that sometimes I missed a few things because maybe I wasn't used to it. But also, someone did mention in chat that I was permanently taking screenshots. So
yeah. Well, they kind of made it a point to like stop and like give you a moment to like pan the camera over to look at things when it happened. And they're really good with the sound direction.
Yes.
Yep. If you didn't have your sound up, it might be a little bit more difficult. I'd feel.
Definitely.
Yeah, it wasn't always so blatantly obvious. Like you could catch different things, like depending on whether or not you're kind of looking for that stuff as well, I guess. But yeah, less obvious in your face stuff. But you kind of, if you're looking, it made you feel more immersed, and maybe is there more immersion creating, I guess. Yeah, no, I love playing through this story personally. I actually just really enjoyed it. But we'll talk about, we'll get through toward that. It was just interesting to talk about the dragons as well, and then I thought they were pretty damn good. But the other person who was in the trailer, as we mentioned previously, was Sai Sahan, who was potentially maybe someone you killed off in the main story. So if we had to describe Sai Sahan in like a very short sentence, how would you describe Sai? Like, where is he from? What does he do? Who is he? Who is this guy? Because people might just be like, who the hell is this dude?
Who's that guy? It's Redguard. He was part of the Dragon Guard, right? And badass swordsman, like many of the Redguard are.
True.
Those are the traits that stand out to me the most. Just like badass, honorable dude, gonna kill you if you if you cross him.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Yeah, and it was involved in the main quest, obviously, as well. So he, in terms of his main involvement in the main quest, what was he? Like, why did he join us? I can't. Like, what was the main reason that he joined us and he came on our quest? Because there's obviously there's us as the main player character. There's Varen, there's Lyris, and then there's Sai. So why is Sai there?
He was one of the 5 companions. And so as you get through the main quest line, you meet Lyris, you meet eventually you figure out who Varen is, and you meet the other 5 companions, and you come to meet Abner Tharn and Sai Sahan and Manon Marco, and there's even like flashbacks you go to with where you're taking into these visions and you see what the 5 companions were doing in trying to follow Manon Marco's plan to help Varen become Dragonborn by using the amulet. And you can tell that like the 5 companions are all kind of saucy in their own way. They don't always get along, but it's an interesting group. And of course, Manon Marco betrays all of them and everything goes to hell. But Sai Sahan was part of that.
Good stuff. Good explanation. And then he comes along, and so the reason we get him back is something to do with the Amulet of Kings, right? And he helps us with. So in terms of his present, what he does in the main quest line, he's just someone we bring. You know, he comes back and he's just there because he was there originally.
He hit the helmet.
Well, that's the big question: is like, what did he go do after the main quest was done? Because he doesn't show up anywhere else until that trailer, right?
This is true as well.
So my joke was that he and Lyris are on vacation, but what's that?
I thought it was implied he went back to help rebuild part of what was that sanctuary that got destroyed when Manon Marco took over?
Oh, you were there in the main quest, right?
Yeah, you went through it to get the Amulet of Kings, which he left in this tomb area there and all that stuff that got destroyed. He's looking to help rebuild the school after. I thought. At least that's what I got the impression of. But I don't know if that's what they said.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. But I guess the whole question is like, because you have the ability to choose who's going to be sacrificed, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So like, is there like, are they going with the, like you mentioned earlier, that most people chose Varen, and so he is now the canon choice. But for each of us, they've done such a good job of letting our actions carry through to the rest of the campaign and in the games as they come out with new story. So is there a reason that Sai Sahan could be back after being sacrificed? Does that make any sense?
I don't want to read too much into it, but you're looking at the Amulet of Kings, which is given by Alkosh, and you're fighting dragons.
Right, there is a connection there.
Yeah.
And why though? What's that connection? I mean, I'm not sure I get what you're talking about, and maybe viewers or listeners don't get it.
Alkosh, the Dragon King, whose name is kind of been sullied with all this other stuff going on, and who also favors the Khajiit. Now suddenly Varen, now he's coming back here to kind of avenge it. Sort of like how Darian was the Golden Knight for Meridia.
So Akatosh is the Aedra in charge of time. He was the original creator of time and is often portrayed as a dragon.
Okay.
And is the creator of Alduin, who we come to find out about in Skyrim, and is responsible for many of the things going on in the world and the initial rise of the dragons back in like the Merithic era or whenever that was. And so there's all of this connection to that. And then you have Alkosh as probably the Khajiit name for Akatosh. So they're probably one and the same, but sometimes that isn't the case. Sometimes the deities will reveal themselves differently to different peoples at different times. So we don't know. I mean, that's all fuzzy stuff, but the Amulet of Kings, the blood of the Dragonborn, all of that stuff is connected into that through line, and this idea that there are some dragons still in the world and they may be hidden away or captured or those kinds of things is still connected to all of that. So they could play with those details. There's a lot there that's still kind of fuzzy and unknown about how many dragons are still in the world. Where did a lot of them go?
Yep.
Some of them got sent forward through time for Skyrim, but not everyone. So that's why these guys are here. So there's a lot of questions around that.
So Sai deserves to be there then. Yeah, so I'm coming off of all of that.
Yeah. I mean, Dragon Guard, that's like, I guess it makes sense. Like, you have dragons show back up, and you need somebody who knows how to kick their butts. So why not bring Sai back?
I mean, the other thing is, it could be that we didn't understand how the Amulet of Kings worked. I mean, supposedly it takes a soul to charge it up and use it, and the idea was that you're not supposed to, like, that's it for the person to just go off into eternity. But maybe we just didn't understand what it actually did. So,
or maybe it can be replaced. Maybe that soul is released if another soul is imbued into the amulet. I mean, there's and just thinking of creative ways of storytelling that we haven't been addressed. So maybe some of that stuff works. I don't know.
See, what do you think?
Can we get our soul back, right?
Yeah. And then you have, I mean, that even connects to Cadwell and the Soul Shriven, and this idea that Cadwell somehow has this existence as a Soul Shriven with a body, and yet his actual body is still buried and is necromancied up in order to bring who he originally was back, and yet the two of them can somehow coexist. So there's a lot of fuzziness around how any of that stuff works.
I think it's a lot to do with the soul, isn't it, and the spirit, and that shapes us, I think, and it shapes our surroundings and our bodies and our creation and everything else. It's a little bit spiritual there. I'm a little bit like that, people.
So here's another question that raises that I think is interesting to me. You, when you start out the main quest line, are soul shriven, right? That's what makes you special, and you are lacking your soul. That's why you're the special character. Does that mean that your original body could be buried somewhere in the world also?
That's what I was thinking. Like, well, plot.
Oh my god, that'd be so cool.
Does that mean that it could be similar to things that happen in this plot line, like resurrected by a necromancer and then used against you?
Well, no, wait, because you're soul shriven, but I think weren't you the opposite way of soul shriven? So you know how evil Cadwell,
they brought our body to Cold Harbor, right?
Right.
Didn't it bring
so
us?
you're evil. So like, evil Cadwell is the body, right? And then Sir Cadwell is the essence. At the end of your main quest, you get your essence back. So that's the gooder part of you that you're going through this entire thing of. Yeah. That Murray has been like releases back to you once you get back into it.
Yeah, it's been a while. I haven't thought about all that stuff in a long time.
So it's kind of the opposite, isn't it?
Maybe.
Right. So actually, you're your bad self going through the entire world here.
But the thing is that you could probably, you can dress it up either way. I mean, I guess technically you didn't see your body go down there. I think that was said that you were brought down there. I don't know if it ever said your body was brought down because you were killed, right? I mean, you were killed on the farm.
And everyone who sees you says you're soulless, right?
Yeah. That's the whole thing, is that you're weird. You don't have a soul.
Right. So you're going back to get your soul. So I guess Cadwell is a soul shriven, but he's actually a soul.
Yes, he's just a soul
and he's one of the oldest ones. Maybe Mullick Ball hadn't figured out.
This sounds like a podcast. This sounds like a podcast on its own. Who are you and where are you in the world, basically? Yeah. And what are you?
Do you want to talk a little on Cadwell too? Because
we will definitely get there. Yeah, we're gonna go. Okay. We're gonna kind of go. I need to keep. If I don't keep to this, we're gonna be going all over the place. But we'll definitely go through the Cadwell stuff. Is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It's actually my favorite part of it. Yes, Sai Sahan. Per Dragon Guard. So I mean, who did we all kill off in the main quest line? Who did you kill, T? I want to know who you killed off.
That's what he gets for chasing me around.
Oh, Baron. Sorry, you cut out. Yeah. I was like, who chased you around? Yeah.
The Prophet.
Okay.
The Prophet.
Yeah. I don't back, I don't know, 5 years ago when the game came out, I don't remember who I killed at the end originally, but playing through it again, I don't know, maybe a year ago, it was Varen.
Yeah, I killed off Varen and recently killed a lot off Lyris. I don't know if I actually killed off Sai.
I remember who I killed off. It was Sai. And I remember the reason too, because I was hoping for romance options with Lyris.
Oh man,
Oh,
That's hilarious.
that's funny.
that's the reason, and then it doesn't happen, or did it?
So
Happen?
your character's into really tall women.
She's pretty awesome. She's pretty awesome. Okay, so Sai, legend. None of us, well, actually 1 out of 4. There you go. So that actually kind of makes sense almost with the poll to a degree, a little bit more. But so again, you know, to a lot of people, they're not gonna have to explain what actually happened. Like, you know, so for is that example of, you know, 1 out of 4 here, which is about, you know, 25%. It's about 20% on that poll I mentioned out of 1,150 people. So I was the one that they killed. They're not actually going to have to explain it to many people, but they're still going to have to explain it because obviously people have alts. People did kill Sai. So how did he? So, I mean, we won't go on for too long because this might take a while. But and T, like, I'm going to ask you first. How do you think, you know, they would deal with that in the future? You know, if you killed off Sai in this main story, how's he back? What's going on? What do you reckon? It can be the most out there. It can be a funny thing you might think will work, or something serious. Like, how do you think he's back?
So
Pressure on T now.
magic is a crazy thing in
True.
Elder Scrolls, and especially like Am was talking about in the chat, mentions that Cold Harbor is outside of linear time. Every like rules are totally out the window when you get into Oblivion realms. As far as like what you're seeing isn't actually what is there. It's just what your mind is trying to comprehend and put together. Like there's just so much stuff that could be like a loophole for actual death, quote unquote. You have things like soul gems. We've learned a lot about soul gems in Clockwork City, for example, the black soul gems. If you go through the trial, you know, that brings a lot of really kind of alarming implications on
can
like
you just
what
explain
is actually death. And
T, what do you mean about the black soul gem? Can you explain that very quick again? Because not everyone will have done the trial as well and found out this information. If that's
right, so you find out that Sothasil did a bad sort of.
Did a bad
he
thing.
Did a bad. He did some experiments on some of the tribunal's own like saints, and basically entraps them and gives them new bodies in the form of the abominations we kind of attack in the asylum. And so there's just so many ways that a soul can kind of be wayward from where they should be going once they die.
They're always just getting lost. You gotta kind of corral them like cats.
Yeah, exactly. Like even us, we have the same issue as our own characters have the same issue as like we lost our soul and you go on an adventure to get it back. I mean, I don't know. The first thing, like if you start ESO from the base game, is your character dies. So I mean, I don't see Sai being some exception. Like, oh, he's dead forever.
Yep.
So true. Good point about that. I mean, you see it in TV shows as well. You know, your favorite character dies. I mean, if you watch Supernatural, I mean, like, those guys that come back every, you know, it doesn't matter, does it? They're coming back to life. I mean, they're not going to die. unless it's like the end of the whole show, which is coming to an end. But so yeah, I mean, it could be anything. I mean, what do you guys think as well? I'm gonna ask Hero first.
I think my best guess would be anyone who sacrifices their essence, but we don't necessarily know if they're not soul shriven. So when they sacrifice themselves, they're sacrificing the soul shriven part, but when you kill Molag Bal, then you're releasing their essence part. That might be my best guess to it.
Question for you guys, if you die, like, is it you just go to Cold Harbor? What is that? What's the deal with that?
Supposedly you go to Aetherius. So supposedly most of the races believe that there's some sort of
heaven
movement beyond Oblivion into Aetherius.
Right.
Whether it's Sovngarde with the Nords or the Khajiit or like the what is it, like the infinite desert that the Khajiit talk about. Yeah. So most races believe you move on to Aetherius.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, we're getting
it's like
deep
an
in the
incredibly loaded question, Jebro.
I know, but that's the thing. Like, I don't know. Like, what is the belief? Like, because I mean, there's Cold Harbor.
Really it does depend, like, on your race. I think.
Yeah.
There's. Mm-hmm. I think it could be argued. It could be on the individual's beliefs, because I don't think every Nord is going to end up in Sovngarde. And then there's people who sell their souls to Daedra, and that's where you see the people in Cold Harbor, though.
Yeah.
A lot of them were, as Am mentioned, sold to Molag Bal. They were sacrificed.
See, it would be nice to have. First of all, let's go to Mr. Lorecast as well. You explain what you think might happen.
I've got it 100%. I've got this figured out. You guys ready?
Okay.
It's Sai Sahan's more handsome, slightly younger brother.
And he's also bald?
Yeah. They're like identical twins. He's just a little bit more better looking.
Okay, well, that was easy.
Solved.
Did you come to a conclusion, Hero? I don't know if I just cut you off. I'm not sure if you came to a conclusion.
Like I said, my only guess is that the whole Amulet of King things was, again, you charge up the amulet, but that's not necessarily your entire thing, because we don't, like, everyone who's come to Cold Harbor has had their soul split from their body, right?
Yeah.
So it wouldn't make sense that Abner, Lyris, Sai, and Abner didn't have that same split, right? So they're like the rest of us, and even like Cadwell, they had their soul split from the body, and the two are kind of like independent of each other at this point. So you sacrifice one, but you still have that other body or essence that's kind of sitting out there somewhere doing stuff.
So you think the essence just found the body again? No, or do you think the essence, like, he came back from Cold Harbor like we did, or?
I think they came back. And whoever comes back, I guess, just doesn't have.
Well, we rescue him in the main storyline. Like, you and Lyris go and rescue Sai from being tortured, by Manny Marco to try to give up the location of the soul gem or something like that, the amulet. So you do bring him back, but if he's anything like you are at that point, he doesn't have a soul.
Right, and what happens when you defeat Molag Bal? Like, they release all those souls out, right?
Yeah, that's true, actually.
So yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Is this
again?
the thing?
It's that whole why are there two Cadwells thing, right?
It's gonna be interesting. I mean, why is there? I mean, maybe he's been there for so long that I mean, his soul's already there, and he's got a choice. Maybe his soul is just like he wants to stay there.
Or maybe you get like a Cold Harbor body for yourself. That's different from your regular body.
Doppelganger choice. Well, this is the thing. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, this is why it's nice to talk about these things, because there are so many flipping and there's some talk about in chat as well, ideas, and it is a bit sketchy, actually. I mean, I think
So let's.
it's probably going to be quite. I mean, it's not going to. But the thing is, I'm worried about is that it's going to be done in a 2-line conversation, and that's not going to be addressed. I want that personally. I don't know how you guys think. I actually feel about it, but and judging by the amount of people, because they'll obviously know how many people have come in since the base game went through, like how many people have done the main quest, how many people really care. They would have obviously spent the production time on this, depending on these different things, I'm assuming. If they don't address this properly, I might be a little bit pissed off, because I kind of really like Sai. And it's not just the bald thing. He was a genuinely good character. It's not, I promise. But he's a badass.
Don't all bald people know each other? Isn't that a thing?
See, there is a brotherhood, yeah. Ask Cash from Law Seekers.
But I don't think they're gonna just go quickly through it, because if you look at Abner Tharn during the Elsweyr quest, I mean, there is a lot of conversations you can have with him about he kind of tries to dismiss it, but you can keep asking wait, no, what happened? You guys catch me up. It's been a while, bud. What did you do? What about that amulet, huh? So even your own character doesn't really let them get away with, well, let's just get going. If you've done the main quest, there is a lot of talk that you can have with Abner Tharn.
Yeah,
I'm sure they have some sort of justification, because they know that if they don't, the fan base is gonna, riot. This can be all over
Eat 'em
Twitter.
alive.
They're
well,
gonna be like,
people have
"What the
said
hell?"
that. Every single time I go into a stream, sometimes and there's discussion about it, or I look at the forums, there is a lot of people who say, "Oh, they'll probably just do this." They'll probably just get because I think it's happened before. I'm not sure who with, because I haven't played all the storylines at all.
Yep.
But I think apparently it's happened before. So I think the T's right. I think that maybe, I mean, that's my hope anyway, that, they gave you, because it was I feel like in Elsweyr specifically in terms of their storytelling, and I think, it's Elder Scrolls, the writers, everyone is on it in terms of story. I'm very engaged, especially for me. I mean, MMOs for me, a lot of the time where, I read story and I listen, but I don't feel very engaged in it a lot of the time, because it feels like it's the same story over and over and over again. But this is very different. Elder Scrolls Online is very different, and it feels, very in touch with, maybe Skyrim, whatever, Oblivion, and it all links together, and they've got some very talented people, and I'm hoping that, and I think they will do it justice, because it feels like it's evolved. I think it's like he said earlier, something to do with the main quest, and even the immersion in terms of just what you see. I think that maybe, with the story, they are giving you a lot of information about Abner Tharn. I think, whether or not that's because he might be ending is another, that might be a reason. But you also do find a lot out about other characters. So I don't know.
Well, another interesting thought as well is that they could be pulling a Doctor Who as well. That this Sai Saharan is an earlier Sai Saharan. So how would that conversation go? How you doing, Sai? By the way, in a few months you're going to be kidnapped. You're going to be tortured. You're going to have your soul sacrificed.
True. There is a forum post about this, about the actual timeline. As someone said in the chat, it's not that. Well, there is a theory about this. I know, but
it's an interesting thought that people are talking about that being outside of time, and certain events could happen in varying factions. It really wouldn't make sense that we're all ahead and he's behind, really, unless he's a time traveler for some reason.
Well, I mean,
but I think that would still be an interesting conversation to have with Sai. Sai, I'm sorry, but you're going to be tortured, killed, and then sacrificed later on. But
you might get a day out of it. Depending on who we kill. Sorry, mate.
That was a nice try.
That was a nice try. Anything is possible, I guess. Maybe that's interesting. I mean, again, that's a big part of it. Sai, how the hell does he come back? And again, I hope T's right in what she's saying. And I like Mr. Lorecast as well. It's just simple. It's just yes, his brother. I mean, maybe they could. Maybe it is the
Sold.
ultimate way to get around it. It's like, I am Psy the Buff. I don't know, whatever, and I am his brother, and etc. so forth.
Yep.
I mean, he doesn't say his Psy in the trailer, I guess. So
Yeah, I don't think anywhere they say the name. That was the other thing I was thinking about. I was like, they don't actually call it by
Does it say
name.
on the website? It does say
It
Psy.
does.
It
Yeah,
does
it
say
did.
Psy on the
It just
Yeah.
website.
said the return of Psy.
Oh,
no.
damn.
There goes my
Debunked.
theory. Well, maybe they both have the same name.
You're really
The
strange.
parents
It just
were really
passes
bad.
down.
You're really
Yeah.
strange.
Or like George Foreman's kids. They're all named George, right?
Jeez.
Are you actually serious?
No, that I'm being serious
Again,
about
you
that
gotta
one.
stop
That's
making
the
things
thing.
up because apparently I'm really
Right.
gullible.
Well, I also say it with this like blank face, and people
Yeah, it
take
was
me seriously.
deadpan,
But
man. You
yeah,
have
yeah.
me, dude.
No, but George Foreman, all of his kids, even the girl, I think, are named George or Georgina, maybe.
Georgia.
Georgia. There you go. That would be
Yeah,
better.
Georgina's
No, but
in there.
seriously, all the
Yeah.
kids are named George. You can look this up. I'll find a link.
Oh, jeez.
Don't worry, no.
Amazing research throughout the stream.
5 sons and 7 daughters. His 5 sons are George Jr., George the Third, George the Fourth.
Oh, you're not joking. Okay,
I'm not
right.
joking.
No,
And they have
you actually
nicknames
being
like-
serious. Oh wow.
Like Monk, Big Wheel, Red, Little Joey.
What?
It's on Wikipedia. Here, look, check this out. I'm gonna share it in the stream.
Oh good lord, that's amazing.
Oh boy.
Okay, so this is a possible thing because people actually do that.
People actually do that. Yeah.
I am Psy. Psy's
I'm not
son.
sure about-
Psy's brother. I don't know. Okay, well, either way, let's move off that subject because that's a bit random. So Psy's role in Elsweyr, or the remainder of Elsweyr. So we've got the next 2 expansions. Obviously, we've got Scalebreaker Q3, which is the 2 new dungeons, and we've got Dragon Hold, which is Q4. Which is the new zone and the story and everything else, but the story continues through Scalebreaker, which is hype. Obviously, I mean we knew about these things in January. What do you think Psy's role is going to be? Is he going to be a main? He's a main character, I guess. But do you think you're going to see a lot from him? Do you think he's going to be ultimately important? Is he like?
I think he's going to be leader of the Dragon Guard, and what I'm guessing here for one of those new dungeon events, or maybe even for Dragonhold, is we might see something for Cloud Ruler Temple. It's been locked away since the start of the game. It's sitting out there, and they would kind of tie in the Imperial stuff to the dragons to Elsweyr, but still haven't seen anything more about that too.
Huh.
So I've got a theory.
Okay.
So
Okay.
from like a story writing standpoint,
Is he his brother? Or...
this is a legit theory.
Okay.
This isn't a joke. So if from a story writing component, if they've been hinting like we're thinking of Abner Tharn retiring or maybe passing away, then the way to carry emotional impact to the audience would be by having another character there who is actually emotionally impacted by the events. And most of the other
right.
characters think Abner Tharn is just kind of this old douche who's trying to do the right thing but messes crap up and then has to fix things, right?
Mhm.
But having somebody like Psy there, who was one of the companions who successfully made it through the main storyline, kind of was able to put their past behind them and move on, and then having them band together to take on the dragons, and then having Psy like holding Abner in his arms as he passes away or something would be more emotionally
And-
impactful.
And Chimera is kind of taking the role of Lyris in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Where the Lyris and Abner are always kind of at butting heads.
Right.
Now Chimera is taking that role Lyris had, and now butting heads against that. So
Right.
probably seeing a revelation or a turning point for her to be like, "Oh, Abner, I'm so sorry that this happened to you." Blah blah.
Right,
Something
right,
like that.
and it would redeem him from his mistakes for him to make some sort of sacrifice in
Mhm.
order to, especially for somebody like Chimera to become or to maintain her the royal line and help the Khajiit people, because ultimately Abner was somewhat responsible for the dragons, you know. So I don't know, just from a story writing point, I think that all could make sense. I don't know for sure if it'll happen, but
Right.
it's a good way to kind of play that out.
T, what do you think? If
I don't know. I feel like, to be fair, I feel like he kind of redeemed himself already in the chapter.
Mhm.
Like, he was. I mean, you could tell there were points where he was like, "What am I
Oh, you
doing?"
mean you're
And,
talking about have no
like,
fun? You're talking about fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
fun.
right.
Or he's just like, "What
Okay.
in tarnation?" I do think they're probably gonna, you know, I don't know if they'll kill him off. I actually thought they were going to during the chapter at some points when he was doing
I was fearing that,
giant
yeah.
shields. I was like, oh no, crud, he's already told me he was tired. Now he's doing these huge, siege shields. I almost want to say there's gonna be like some companion reunion episode or something that's gonna come up. So like we've got Abner Tharn, we've got Sai. Like what if next? Okay, my theory is we're gonna get Skyrim next for the chapter, and
Mhm.
there's a Nord in the companions. That would be a good, So I don't know. I think that's where they're gonna go with Sai returning, and maybe even kind of. I don't know if they would rehash the main storyline, but maybe find some sort of somewhere to go with them as far as them being a group and being important again.
Yeah, and Sai and Lyris having a relationship, going up to Skyrim, and then they're able to put down the stuff going on in Elsweyr. Something else happens in Skyrim, maybe involving dragons again, and Sai ends up having to get back with Lyris, and then now you've got plot developments for that, which of course are going to resonate with people who've been following the story. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We just wrote it, guys. We just wrote the whole part of the game as it's coming. We should just contact Cinemax right now and say we got the story written.
We've got it.
We got it. You guys can go on.
You're welcome.
We've got this.
And I didn't even pay you a dime as well. Didn't have to do it. Just paying you with nothing.
Pay us with food and
yeah, okay.
and,
I mean, what I don't.
some merch.
Yeah, man. Just send me like the ultimate edition of each of the games from now on.
Ultimate edition.
That's all I
want. Okay. So I think that was pretty damn good. Just a little bit of discussion. I like that. So main story, like just the main quest line. Talking about that right now. You think the general length? Because I remember I was in a stream and someone said it was too short, and I was like, short? It was like, took me 7 hours. And the length of the entire. I mean, obviously, I was taking screenshots and I messed up a couple of times.
Okay, I remember you telling me it took you about 6 to 7 hours. It took me a really long time, but I kept talking to people after there were cutscenes and like trying to get all the dialogue from everybody. It was maybe 10 hours for me. It took me 2 full streams to do.
Yeah. If you would listen to all the dialogue, talk to all the companions, side characters, it was long. If you just went ahead and did the main fights, it was probably short because you just blew through everything. There's a lot of dialogue, very dialogue heavy, I think.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard with Somerset, the length.
I think it was about the same as Somerset.
I feel like it was about the same. I mean, it felt like that to me.
Yeah. I think the only thing I had issue with it was the companions didn't really help you that much on a lot of the fights.
Like I just jumping from cliffs and surviving dragon breath and stuff.
It was often like, here's a crazy, terrible situation. Go on, you can do it. Just on your own.
Yeah, the fight with Balok Dan. I'm just fighting there in the middle of the plaza, watching all the other Khajiit around. Just watch. Yeah. Like I'm soloing the dragon here. Where's the siege fire? Where's the other mages like putting up shields and spells? And there's just me fighting.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a technological limitation, or if it's if they try to do that and it looks like a bunch of weird scripted garbage around you, where everyone's just kind of doing the same animation nothing's actually doing anything.
Well, they didn't have to actually do damage. I don't care if they do damage or like don't really. Just like make them look like they're trying to guard themselves or trying to hit the thing
Like
and just
shooting arrows and fireballs. Yeah.
Yeah, please, because it was just like looking around. I was like, I was sitting in the middle of the stream, like, are you guys gonna help? Like, hi, and then they're all cheering and like cheering all these people, and they're like,
we did it.
But you didn't do anything. And then there's
When your
like,
soccer
like
team
the
scores a goal, and the
opposite.
audience is all like, "Yes, we did it!"
my job here is done. Just no.
Yeah,
It
that's true.
was like the exact opposite of Skyrim, where like all these people who are like, I don't know, making food for dinner run out with their butter knives to
Yes.
try and kill a dragon. Or you have like all these people that are ready to attack. You're
Well,
like,
to be
"Oh,
fair, the
no."
Khajiit, they're smarter than doing that, right?
Yes,
That's
yes,
true, actually.
indeed.
Maybe they're just hanging out at the back. They're just like, make sure you know this player character can
Like-
die first.
Go, we believe in you.
Yeah, just in the back. Yeah, they've got little flags. Just with your character, that would have been fun. Actually.
We helped you with spirit and cheers.
Yeah, yeah,
The flags say, "Yay,
yeah. Just yeah, just yeah. Okay.
we believe in you."
So do you all feel like, so the general feeling is it was, if you, as long as you went through like the story is in an ESO, you know, if you go through the dialogue, it can be quite long, but if you don't, and I think that's the same in any story, in any
There's
game.
also a lot of redundancy. Like, I think they understand that a lot of players will skip parts of dialogue and then
Yeah.
pay attention again. So
noticed
there are
that.
multiple times, where they reiterate the same things. They're like, "Well, because I am this person and this is my history," blah blah. And it's like, wait, okay,
Yeah.
you already said that. I get it.
I kind of wish they would like just like sneak in, like if you keep on repeating dialogue, like I told you this like 5 times already. Are you okay?
Right.
Oh
They
yeah, that's right.
actually kind of did, where I think it was when Abner Tharn was looking through his sister's notes,
Yeah.
and you asked something where you're like, "So what are we doing again?" And he's like, "God, you are terrible at listening." And I was like,
I remember that. Yeah.
and that was the only dialogue action. Okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to hear it all.
Good to
So
know.
and with this, they had about I think 3 main plots, right? And they had the A plot, which is the dragons and everything going on with them. You had the succession of the throne with the Raxia, and then you had the business with Cadwell and Zumang Foom, Necromancer, like bringing things up and how they all kind of
Best
like
game ever.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, you could say there's even more. Like, you actually was the separate, could be like very, very separate as well. And you've got like, there was a lot of different overarching kind of storylines within. I actually think it really melded quite well. Like, it was all very linked and it was all very well done. And you didn't really know the significance of the whole Cadwell thing, really. Because I thought it was like, I was like, are they just bringing back John Cleese for the sake of it? Who voices Cadwell?
Yeah.
I was just like,
And
you know, his
I'm
old
actually-
friend's name, or is it like, you know, is he going to be?
I was impressed with his performance, to get a little bit meta. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times when John Cleese voices things, he's basically himself because people like him, you know, and he's like, "I'm John Cleese," and but it's like his
That would have been very interesting if we just
that's my
randomly
John
said
Cleese
that.
"Oh, I'm Cadwell again, and I'm actually John Cleese, and here's a silly walk." Yeah, but when he does the other character's voice, and then even, I mean, Cadwell even goes through some emotional turmoil and
Yeah.
breaks down a bit. He's not just
Yeah.
his wacky self, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the performance there was actually very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
thought the
actually,
same thing.
I could say a lot on Cadwell, but I don't want to just yet.
Yeah, we're almost there. We're almost there.
Okay. But one thing I'd probably mention is the shoot. Just go on. I just lost it there. I had it there for a
It's
minute.
okay. It's okay. I get that. I get that a lot. T, were you gonna say something? Sorry, as well. T was.
I was just gonna say, you could tell a difference between Cadwell and the Betrayer, which I thought was really great. Like, he had a different way of talking as the Betrayer. He had like this weird, like lots of saliva in his mouth, sort of. He was like,
Yeah, really grimy
I was
voice.
like, oh my god,
Yep.
what the heck is he doing? I just thought it was,
I know what you mean, actually.
it was a nice way to, we didn't just tell that, mean Cadwell mean. It was a completely different person that we were talking to. It wasn't really Cadwell.
Well, that's the thing, and you still have to be able to. I mean, actually, I'll hold what I say because I'll save it for when we actually talk about him as well. But yeah, he was ridiculous. He was like my highlight, really. I think it might be an English thing. I know as well, but I don't know. Okay, so the story, we think the length of the story was good as long as you went through the different
Through the dialogues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it generally? Did you? I'll just start off with Mr. Lorecast. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy the story?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I've enjoyed it. I think I've enjoyed everything they've done better than the previous thing. As I've as these
More
expansions
so than
and
Somerset and
chapters.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I like the Khajiit. I mean, I often main a Khajiit in my playthroughs, and
you old main Khajiit. What the hell is wrong with you?
you get stuck doing like the sneaky assassin thing, and then you're like, well, person.
Jesus, I feel outnumbered. I
think I have 2 non-Khajiit characters in my entire list.
I'm just an Argonian.
But I would say I like this chapter as well. And like one thing I really first chapter expansion DLC that we didn't really have much to do with Daedra. Like they were absent for Elsweyr. You actually saw like real people having issues doing stuff, not based on some god's
the Daedra
intervention.
and some of the delves, as far
Some
as
of the
I remember.
delves,
But
yes, but they didn't have an
Yeah.
not to the
They were
overarching.
main protagonist. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Actually, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, Somerset was good, but like, I mean, I was expecting the Sea Slows to be the main bad guy, but no, it's the Daedra like controlling them. Come on, you have a main bad guy. You don't have to focus on Daedra all the time.
That's true. That's true. I actually didn't think about that. No, you don't hear those kind of, really reverb, echoey voices every single time you go into any zone. It's actually quite nice. I didn't think about that. T, what did you think? You enjoyed it generally, the story? You liked it? You thought it was great? Or no? Or it could have been better?
Let me say I really loved Somerset's quests. Like, I really liked the characters. I don't know, I just felt like we were on an adventure. But Elsweyr, I love the fact that we were not like some like special person. We were basically like just some person that was following Abner Tharn around. And it was really like, it was Chimera's story, it was Cadwell's story, and I thought the story was so much better for that. Where we weren't like the chosen one, you are the only one who can defeat the dragon. No, we had to like make sure Chimera stayed alive. So that because if anything happened to her, we were.
You're the only one who can defeat the dragon.
Oh, jeez.
So, but like, if anything had happened to Chimera in those last like couple of quests, we're done. There's nothing our character could have done to stop the eclipse. It was literally, it would have either been Chimera or Cadwell that would have been able to do something.
So we were like we were a supporting character, but without us, it still couldn't get done, basically.
Yeah,
because nobody else jumped in on the fights.
Yeah, because everyone's just sitting there.
Now, technically, does Chimera have the same power as Cadwell now? Is that what you understood at the end?
They implied that she would have needed to still learn and refine it, but she's tied to Lunar Lattice, which is like some crazy implications on lore, which is pretty awesome, but kind of terrifying too. But yeah, that's why Cadwell has a lot of unique powers, is because of what happened when he was the betrayer.
How he tied himself to it, yeah.
Yeah, that was very good. Okay. So let's move on quickly to the dragons. Did you want did you want to make another point? Or
No, I just wanted to let you know it's starting to really thunder here, and so if the power drops or something. I
Oh,
apologize.
okay. Is there something that happens?
Yeah, well, yeah, I live in Florida, and so thunderstorms just like every day, just like during the
damn.
summer,
Tear up
just
everything.
kick up,
Nice.
and then you might hear thunder, but that's not for mood or effect. That's not dragons walking around. That's
Just
legit
random
lightning
sound.
hitting the ground.
Okay. Well, that is very good to know. We'll find out.
And I've got my
God.
own thunder here with the kids running back and forth. So if you hear me mute for a little bit, that's probably why.
That's okay. No worries. I'm gonna go through this a little tiny bit quicker because just in case there is power destruction, whatever. What was I gonna say? Dragons wise, I did feel at times that the dragons were a little bit weak. Not the end, not right at the end, but I think the first dragon, I felt like he was a bit of a pushover.
Yeah, that fight was very easy.
It's a bit underwhelming.
Yeah.
And I don't know,
But
like if there's 3 dragons, it's like people, they might just suck at fighting. I don't know. I mean,
Well, if we understand the lore
fight.
on this too, they all the dragons lost their powers or had their powers sucked away by who is it? The main hero, Kanzari, the first time, and basically the reason that Kyle is going to Joan and Jode is to suck back that power that he got from all those other ones. So these aren't supposedly the powerful dragons that you have in Skyrim. In addition to that, they're also getting weakened by the dragon horn. I think they could have done a better job showing that, like maybe having like a effect on them or some type of like glow or aura to that. But yeah, supposedly they're not the full powered ones who were fighting in Skyrim.
Okay. Fair play.
That's at least what I took from that.
Yeah, that makes some kind of sense.
But on the other thing, they're also not that smart because like when they get to execute range, I mean, we've all done PvP before. If you're at execute range, you're getting chased, you might want to run. And like with a dragon, you can just fly away and go in most of those fights. I just don't understand that for some of that.
I think, I mean, in the last fight with Mimnir, when he got lower in HP, he actually got empowered by Carl, didn't he? I mean, he gave him. Did he give him the lightning power or the breath? I can't remember which one it was specifically.
He locked you in like a circle and then like started like doing like chains of lightning while summoning other things to come fight you.
Yeah. That was pretty damn cool actually. That bit was good.
Mm-hmm.
That last fight was good. Because there were mechanics. There were a couple of times where I was like, oh crap, I've actually got to heal myself somehow, because I just got lumped with something. So it was cool. My character's quite strong, and CP is quite high, so my survivability is pretty good anyway. So for the new player as well, specifically, it might have been more challenging, obviously. But yeah, no, I thought the last fight was pretty good, pretty decent. And then obviously Khajiit, he does survive, and Mjolnir kind of dies, and you get screenshots with him, and he's down on the floor. I actually did like that fight. That fight was quite cool. Actually, the bit I really liked was before you went through the portal, where the dragon is. Was it Mjolnir who's there? I can't remember which one it is. It's Mjolnir or Khajiit, and he's breathing down fire, and there's this part of the dome of the shield, you can see the outline of it, and you just see the dragon like flaming down on them, and you're coming up to Abnarfar, and you're not in the shield, but you can see this happening. I've got this great screenshot. I wonder if I can find it somewhere. But that bit before they go through the portal to go to the moon was just like,
that
was good. There were good moments. Like you felt like threatened, like there was this dragon. So there were those moments. I felt I did like it. Let's talk about Cadwell because everyone wants to.
Yes.
So generally, in the beginning, just to set the scene for people, to remind them very, very quickly. Obviously, Cadwell's got these powers, and at the beginning of the main story and elsewhere, he is he's on this mission. You kind of randomly come across he doesn't. It's not like he's this guy. And how did you first come across him? They've sensed that someone but not not
opening
in
portals.
Cold Summer.
In this story,
Elsweyr.
he's wandering around opening portals.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's looking for this grave of the betrayer and all that stuff. He's open portals all around, and you find out because Abner Tharn's tuned with that to like say, hey, there's some weird energy signal, and he realizes, oh, it's Cadwell.
Trying to find out who it was at first, and then exactly, it could be Cadwell.
Right. He doesn't even seem to understand why he's doing it. He just knows he's searching for.
Which is really awesome.
which makes it really interesting as well, with like the kind of mystery, and then you kind of know who it is by the time you get to it, and then you finally find out, oh, it's Cadwell's head floating. Well, we know who it is.
Yeah.
That's true, actually. Yeah, that was when you're at the grave, and he's furiously he's there like trying to work out all the things. And he's like, "What's this? The betrayer?" And that whole bit was awesome. Like it was just like it was great because I was through the story. To be honest, everything else kind of took a back seat for me, and I was like, Cadwell. Now, I was free talking about how do you feel, T, about Cadwell in this? Like, were you excited as well about Cadwell, or was it more of like was it more Chimera or Tharn for you, or the dragons? Like, what was your was Cadwell like a big thing you were looking forward to in this story?
I was honestly very curious about what they were gonna do with him, because he's been like a big fan favorite since Cold Harbor and all that, but he kind of dropped off the map after that. Like, he was this, and then after the main quest, you go to him, and he's the one who sends you to an alternative universe to fight for another alliance. Like, when I got to that part, I was like, wait, who the heck is he? How is he doing this? And, like, you can kind of tell there's something else going on, and I feel like they never followed up with that, and they found the opportunity to finally kind of bring him back into things, and they took it, and I'm happy they did.
Yeah, it was a nice surprise when I realized that he was in the expansion, because I didn't know that going in. I had none of that was spoiled for me, and I was like, oh
wow, okay.
Cadwell's back. I was like, I expected cats and dragons, and then I kind of shuttered my
man, I'm jealous.
My news on things, and then I was like, dude dropping portals. Oh, it's Cadwell. Look at that. Yep. He's in it. And then I was like, oh, and now he's an evil floating head. This is cool. 2 Cadwells. Like, good.
Yeah. Now this does bring up a question though. How does he become soul? Because he didn't technically get sacrificed. He was like dismembered, like horribly dismembered, and like sent across all of Elsweyr because of his actions.
Right? I mean, he was taught. He was. I mean, sacrifice. Yeah, isn't really the word. He was. I mean, he was. Yeah.
Right, but most soul-shriven are sacrificed to become soul-shriven, right? My theory on that is probably he was such a cruel person in life. That's
where he ended up.
That's where he ended up. Yeah.
He had a pact with Molag Bal without even necessarily realizing it, because he was so
right. Cool. And that's why he was so happy when he went to Cold Harbor, because he was so cruel in life that this was just like a paradise for him, and then he lost his mind eventually and became the happy-go-lucky person you have today.
That's awesome.
Like, he was just so evil that he was happy and became nice.
He could have also been already a follower of Molag Bal. Yeah, I mean, if you look at Molag Bal's like kind of thing, I mean, this dude just ran around shanking everybody in this temple, including his friend who he helped, gets that point to secure these dragons, and then he turned around and backstabbed him the last second. Is like, see ya. It's very possible he already had sold his soul to Molag Bal,
or just at that point he did.
A follower, yeah.
Oh wow!
That was like the evil Cadwell is very much he's a plotter basically. So yeah, it makes perfect sense for that.
If you read the lore on the soul-shriven stuff, which I just read a couple of sentences of, apparently it was totally possible he would, like, when people died, this is what it sounds like, he could basically kind of interfere with that process and kind of take those souls and take them to Cold Harbor. So where even like it sounds like even like, it almost doesn't matter what happened. Like maybe it was more chance that the sacrifice was, they were definitely going, but then he could interfere with that. And they're talking about the oh good lord, there's flipping words like azure plasm and like this pools of slime, and like this is where some of the bodies get created. I'm just like, what the hell? I need to read this. This is awesome.
Sounds like a good episode for my next Lorecast.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
There's so much information, and there really is a lot of information. So if you do want to, if anyone does know about this as well in chat, like feel free to share that information with people in chat as well. But yeah, I mean, Jesus, okay, there's a lot there, and even just if you read about, oh, good lord. Okay. I can't remember where I was going with that. We were talking about Cadwell. And then I asked all three of you about the thing. You're glad to see him back and all that kind of stuff. Okay, cool. So Cadwell, and we said he's not even sure what's going on. And like Lockhart said, we see that head. And something you said about, I can't remember who said it earlier, but it was about the differences between, I think you all said it actually at different points. That even though he's playing the same character, and he's literally the same character. He's John Cleese, obviously. And so you still have to have that link. Like, this is Cadwell, but it's two different Cadwells. And essentially one isn't Cadwell, but it is. And then the other one is, the betrayer. And it's like Cadwell the betrayer. That was very impressive how he did do that, because there was still some of the same language in there. Obviously, that's the writers as well. It's not just John Cleese, because obviously he had writers for this. I feel like he would have had some input at some point in time, but the writing was extremely good. You have to give props to the script writers. But that was very good. I think I don't know if T said it, and then I think Lorcas kind of reenacted it, like that kind of feeling that he was talking from the back of his throat a little bit more, and there's that almost like that Skeletor-ish kind of feel to it from He-Man. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but like a mouthful of grit while he kind of talks. Yeah,
like he had a peanut butter sandwich before he talked.
Right, right.
He had a bite and then talk, bite and then talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just very well done, and I think I didn't really understand. I thought the betrayer was just going to be this henchman, and like Cadwell's story was maybe going to be just a little bit on the side. But as you go further down, you find out that the betrayer is actually very important to this story, and it was just very, very well developed. What did you guys enjoy about that whole Cadwell bit? Like I guess when I say bit, I guess it was for quite a long part of it was up until almost the last boss, really, or just before, I suppose, just before going through the port. I don't know.
I do have like two or three things with the pacing on the fights there kind of left me a little bit weirded out. Okay. Because, I mean, like I said before, we had an A, a B, and a C plot, right? We had the separate fights for each. I was expecting to have like all the bosses coming in to help on different fights, right? But we kind of just handled one each individually. We didn't have like a major like showdown, like four of us versus four of you. We just had one-on-one over and over again. Like, like it's a Chuck Norris movie where they can't have more than one person fighting him. So that Cadwell fight was interesting, but we didn't have any kind of lead up to it. We didn't see like any of the fights or his abilities ahead of time. I think they could have showcased that a little bit better. But overall, I think it was a pretty good fight for what it was.
I mean, definitely. But do you think, in terms of Cadwell, like, do you think he needed to be in? Are you talking about the Cadwell specifically, or are you talking about the dragon fight? Sorry. Did you fight Cadwell, right? Mm-hmm. In that moment, are you talking about generally the fights, or are you talking about the Cadwell fight specifically? Like, because you were talking about all the dragons. Like, did you want the cold betrayer thing involved with the dragons, or like a little bit more? I know that obviously he was kind of separated from them anyway.
Yeah, one thing I probably would have done is, you remember how you saw like apparitions of him while you're going through the moon gate there, or not the moon gate, the temple, the shadow temple.
Yeah, it was the shadow temple. The Zelda.
Yeah, I think they could have like highlighted his abilities, like what he was like, him jumping through the portals and like stabbing people in the back, summoning like these various like balls of energy around the room and opening tears. That should have been like kind of highlighted on the way in. That's the only thing I think that would like, because I wanted to see more of Evil Cadwell. Really, like you only saw him for like that one area, and then poof, he's kind of gone.
Oh, completely together. Yeah, that's right. Because I remember you see him with the orc. I don't remember
At the very end, before you get like when he gets resurrected, then you have the one temple fight with him, and then it's back to regular Cadwell again. And you get some talk with him, but like you don't get to see his like abilities, like him like really going in at it.
No, he was pretty underwhelming actually. That fight with the betrayal was over almost by the end of my one of the channel of my abilities. To be fair, it wasn't very tough. Yeah.
No, but his abilities look cool though.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to see more of that. You know.
Yeah, that would have been cooler. I actually think the Necro, the Orc Necro was more, like his fight was actually pretty good. Yeah, there you go.
The best name.
The best name. Oh God. Now I remember the conversation earlier. I actually really liked that guy. I thought it was great. Yeah. I think his voice actor. I'm not sure whose voice actor it was, but
I don't know. So my favorite Cadwell Zumag Foom moment is when you first, I guess, what are you doing? You're approaching through a temple or palace, and Zumag Foom and Cadwell's head, the betrayer's head, is floating there.
Yep.
And you can talk to the head, but you only have to talk to Zumag Foom.
Yeah.
And so it's not explained to you, like, how is Cadwell's head floating here? And so you can just talk to Zumag Foom and then just kind of move forward with the story without ever addressing the head.
You can, yeah, that's right.
You can totally just not talk to the head.
Just trying to think how many people, if you've done, this is the difficulty of this, because they have to be very careful. Because a lot of people specifically, I think, you know, I don't know if this is a bit of a jump, but maybe a third of the player base that played on launch of Elsweyr could have been new players.
Yeah.
And they would have had absolutely no idea who the hell Cadwell is. Like, so how do you introduce this epic character that is voiced by John Cleese, you know, that just this kind of this community figure that we've all, like, many people have been looking forward to seeing again. There's been so much story with him. Like, who is this guy? Where has he come from? So there's that as well, right? So that's difficult. So whether or not they did that on purpose for that reason, I'm not too sure. It would be interesting to try and ask them that.
But they did do a pretty good job with Good Cadwell, like displaying him in the various other quests too.
Yeah,
like him like setting up traps to defend Riverhold. Him acting like a gallant knight. Like they gave him a pretty good backstory for new players. Like I played this on a new Necro, and I felt they gave him plenty of time to build up that character. Definitely was pretty good on that one.
Yeah, you at least get a sense of who he is.
Yeah,
maybe not his full importance, but yeah.
But he is a good guy, and this is the bad version of him, just as a basic kind of. Yeah, I think you're right about that. But it is interesting as well that, like, you know, they're not only telling the storylines, because you guys have been, you know, T says she's been playing for 5 years. I can imagine that you guys have been playing for around that time or longer. Well, not longer, sorry, that is the time it's been out. But, and if I'm wrong, you can obviously correct me. But, you know, even for me, I mean, I've been playing for a year and a half-ish, or a year and a bit since last April. So, you know, obviously main quests, I already know about everything about Cadwell, because, you know, there was such a big gap. So you can go up and, you know, you can go back and do the main story, you can catch up with that stuff. It's obviously in the past. So it's not too bad, and there wasn't a lot in between. There was nothing literally in between the main questline, base questline, and Elsweyr. Was that right? Like T said, there is literally nothing else, is there? It doesn't pop up randomly.
Yeah, it's just Cadwell, silver and gold, I think, that you would be...
Other than ESO.
Have any connection with him other than that?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and I think that was good. I mean, I like that moment when you talk to the head. in that first moment where the orc necromancer is standing there, and you know the head is there, and that is nice. I did like that, and I think the difference, you could definitely tell the difference between the two. I don't know.
And I'm also kind of happy that we didn't have like a whole line of like, oh, you have to go here to get the arm, you have to go here to get the leg, and then, like I was expecting that quest.
Yeah, I
quest.
thought that's what was going to happen too. Yeah,
And thank God they just like, oh yeah, the necromancer went and got all the body parts in the back end.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
that's true. And you get there, and because I remember that is actually one of the things I remember the most about the quest line was when you got there, because I can't remember who said this earlier, but I think you've all said it in different ways, that you know you really see, because you know Cadwell kind of you kind of just think of him as this kind of insane character who's kind of funny and quirky but really strong, like he's ridiculously powerful. And he knows it, kind of knows it himself, but even though, you know, he's got all his armor and his pots and pans and, you know, his salt shaker and his pepper shaker on his belt, and you know, even though he's got this his basic armor, which is literally what it is, he's still ridiculously powerful, and it's not about his armor, it's about his power from within himself. And I don't know, when you got to this, you did see this other side to him when you're in that instance and he's reviving the betrayer, the Necro's reviving the betrayer, and Cadwell's tried to stop him. You didn't actually see him try to stop him. That might have been an interesting thing to see, maybe even being defeated there, and then he was drained. But you come across Cadwell and he's looking through these rocks, isn't he? There's this hole. I don't know if it's a window or a hole, and he's just looking down at the summoning, the kind of reanimating of the betrayer, and Cadwell is weak as hell. I don't even know if you've even like seen him weak before. I don't think I've ever seen him that weak.
I don't think so. Yeah,
I think that was a really good moment, actually. One of my favorite moments. Not like, you know, oh, Cadwell's getting wrecked, but like more like, you know, the humanity there with him. Humanity, you know what I mean. I don't know if anyone else agrees. You like these kind of moments that we saw a different kind of Cadwell. Anyone want to chime in this moment? Or it might have just been a statement.
It was really sad. It was like, you saw him, like he was trying his best. He found out that he was a pretty crummy person in life.
Yeah.
And you could tell he just wanted to fix it. He's like, all right, this is my fault. I want to, you know, I don't want to drag everyone else into this. He's used to being super powerful in Cold Harbor. He's obviously not that when he's going in there. And he basically just walks right into their trap where he was the last piece they needed for that puzzle. He had no energy. I don't think there was a fight. I think he walked in and they're like, thanks. And kind of like what we saw with Tharn and the others, where they had those crystal things kind of absorbing their strength. That's what I just assumed.
I don't know if he actually had any regrets about it though. But the way I got it from him, he viewed his other self as like an entirely different person.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like he said like this other person, the evil me and all this other stuff like that. But he didn't sound like he had any tie to it whatsoever. And he was doing this more because he was the Gallant Knight more than trying for absolution.
Yeah, there's this aloofness in his character where he just doesn't feel. Well, it's not aloofness is probably not the right word. This feeling of like
that's right. Yeah.
Like he is not bound personally to this. He's doing it because it's his duty and it's the right thing to do.
Right.
T, go on.
I don't know.
I think
saw some. Yeah, I saw some dialogue options where he was just kind of really down on himself. He's like, I had no idea. I didn't think, you know, I was this kind of person. And you can tell kind of like when he goes to that grave and he's like, how
yeah, why? How?
Why am I here at this betrayer guy? Why would I have any connection?
Because he can't. Because he is so removed. I mean, it's like in psychology. You know, you remove. You don't want to believe. Like, and that might have been what they were going for. You don't want to believe that you are at all a bad person. Like, no one does. Like, we've all got a bad side to us. It's just the way it is. And like, but we don't want to freely admit this thing, right? We're never going to tell people. But when it's laid out bare, like he's there The betrayer is there. He was part. Without the betrayer, Cadwell, he wouldn't exist. He just wouldn't exist at all. So I definitely feel. I did feel something there in terms of he realizes that this guy's a piece of crap, and that maybe he even just feels bad for the fact that he was kind of almost born out of this person, and that he doesn't want to affiliate himself. So there is definitely that feeling of separation. But I did feel like T said, kind of at times there were these options in dialogue. It was more his voice, actually, I felt as well at times, where he was talking, that you felt, I kind of did feel sorry for him. I was like, poor guy, he doesn't know what's going on. He might die. And he was born out of this betrayer. It's like, you kind of feel bad for him. Well, I did anyway.
Yeah. But I think he gets over it faster than a lot of the others. Like Prefect Callow, Abner Tharn, I'm trying to remember the captain's name there. Like all of them had regrets before they came out. So he got over his pretty quick compared to almost everyone else.
Yeah, I
and
guess
he comes back and he's like, "I'm ready," and you're like,
yeah, as soon as he gets himself back in.
It's true. He has no kind of qualms about defeating himself or helping you to defeat himself because he could just not exist. I mean, no one knows. Like, if the betrayer gets completely annihilated, I mean, what happens to him? If his body doesn't exist anymore, maybe, or these other, because I still don't really understand all of this. So we were talking about all the different theories earlier, but he may not exist, but he has no qualms with this. And he actually does technically disappear, doesn't he? He does fade away. And when there's these black kind of which quest is that?
Yeah, he almost felt like he was gone at the start of that, right?
Yeah, like he was a different death. Like it wasn't like because Cadwell comes. I think he's through the portal and it's the end when the betrayer gets fully resurrected, right? And the essence is there. And then Cadwell's sitting there, and then he fades away in an effect that I've not actually seen before in Elder Scrolls on the One. It was actually a little bit like Avengers. I
don't feel so good, Mr. Stark.
Yeah. It was literally a lot like that, actually, thinking about it. And it kind of makes more sense now. I wonder if that influenced it a little bit. I reckon it may.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I actually think it may have, because I think actually Avengers and all the Marvel stuff has influenced a lot of devs in their storytelling in terms of effects and stuff being used. But that's another story. But yeah, that happens, and then it is so in that moment. So I don't know what you think, what you guys think. So where is he? Is he then a part of the betrayer until he dies? And then he
goes back to Cold Harbor.
You think he's gone? You think that's him going back to Cold Harbor?
That's him going back to Cold Harbor because he mentions after we actually defeat the betrayer, he comes back and he's like, after a cool dip inside of Cold Harbor is refreshing waters, I'm back to normal. And I think it's a combination of both us killing the betrayer and getting back most of himself and him reforming inside Cold Harbor that does it, but.
Oh no, the dip is him being like the slime again, isn't it? Like that plasm stuff. Is that what that could be? Maybe that's
kind of what I took it as. Yeah, he's just reforming in Cold Harbor.
So no. I think his essence, as we're talking about in the chat as well. His essence goes into the betrayer, doesn't it? And then when the betrayer dies, the essence from the betrayer goes to Cold Harbor. Is that what we're saying?
Kind of, sort of. You had the essence going into. But then, he has a bit of him left that goes back into Cold Harbor.
Okay.
So the stuff that happened after he got himself separated is back to Cold Harbor.
Flipping out.
There's so I'm looking up the lines. His actual lines are in UASP.net.
Right.
And one of the last things he says is. Next, haven't given it a thought. It's terrible enough. It's enough trouble keeping track of the past and present to bother with what bring the future. Maybe I'll build that little house on the edge of Cold Harbor's yawning chasm. Ah, the vertigo.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, certainly, eventually, it's my home. Besides, who would all the Soul Shriven look up to if I never returned?
Yeah. By the way, did that ending confuse anyone? By the way, because like we were going into the castle to talk to Abner. We talked to him. He mentioned becoming the King's Claw because Chimera wanted a capable person to be it.
So this is
But
the
then we
end,
talked to
isn't
him-
it? You're talking about right now, the end of the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's just talking about becoming the King's Claw because what's his name? Zamorak got rejected on that position. And then he talks about going back to Cold Harbor. And I was like, wait a minute, is he staying to be the Queen's Claw or is he going back to Cold Harbor?
Yeah, that's true, actually. That was a bit confusing. I think I had that moment on the stream as well. Because it was like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe he can be both, but he can't. Maybe, I wonder if there was...
Well, he can teleport around, so maybe he can just show up within a moment's notice.
Yeah, you'd think
Yeah.
he'd want to be...
He can work remotely.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess technically,
He
yeah.
can Skype in for group meetings.
Yeah, and I'm also a little confused on like they never like the good Cadwell. They never had any like I was expecting to have like a moment of like we don't know if we can trust you, man. Like you're the betrayer.
I thought so too, because they mentioned at one point that the other Cadwell could see through his eyes, and I was
That's
like,
right.
"Oh my god, he's like a spy. He doesn't know it, but he's a spy." But then they end up kind of flipping that, and he kind of is a counter spy because he can also
Yeah.
see through the
Yeah.
betrayer's eyes.
But yeah, I there was that point of it. But then I was also expecting them to be suspicious of him. Like, how do we know he's not going to go ways or something like that? But they never have that.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it, but just never had a payoff to
I
it. I
want to
guess.
say there was a moment of that from Farn. I want to say that I remember something happening or him.
I think
saying
Tharn
something.
trusted him way too much. Like to ever
I think
suspect
so
him
too.
of doing
He
anything.
didn't seem like any to question at all. He was
there,
just like, "Oh,
there
it's
not
Cadwell."
one person? I thought there was some mention of it. Must have been somewhere. Although maybe you're right. It is that obvious that maybe just us as human beings naturally were just like, well, I wouldn't trust him. But maybe they're so trusting of Cadwell. It just never comes into question. It's just always been there. Maybe it was
for somebody that used to be the betrayer, quote unquote.
Yeah.
It would have been like a huge callback to like what he was if he had to betray somebody like that.
Yeah.
Maybe the most worrying, because did it come from him at all as the character, as Cadwell, like as the good Cadwell? Did it come from him, like the trusting himself? I don't know if we ever saw that.
Well, they mentioned that like Oblivion could warp a person, so it's kind of interesting to think that the betrayer came to Cold Harbor and got warped into being a good person.
Yeah, Oblivion isn't necessarily evil, it's just other.
Yeah.
So sometimes the effects are not what you would expect them to be.
Cadwell's a good boy.
Yeah, so you're a bad person in life, you become a good person when you come to Cold Harbor.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, maybe if you go to hell and you suck as a person, you might actually just turn out to be awesome, depending on what you believe. I mean, if you believe in that kind of thing, you may not do. I'm not saying I do. I don't know what I believe anymore. I kind of want to believe in the Elder Scrolls stuff. Makes life easier. Although not, actually, apparently. Because there's a lot to work out. I'm not sure I want to come back as slime and work out that whole thing. It would be weird and awkward. And Cold Harbor is a bit scary. But also cool. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about in terms of Cadwell? I think overall we can all agree that he was a pretty damn good character. I mean, there are some other big main characters as well. We've kind of almost gone for about 2 hours, so I didn't want to go on too long about him because we've still got we've got 2 more flipping DLCs to mention quickly, as well as the other characters who are massively important. And I want to talk about Chimera for a second, because she's literally, I mean, really, I would say she's probably one of the most important people, in all honesty, as well, in the whole story. I mean, this person.
She is the main character, in my opinion.
Do you want to tell us why?
Yeah.
T? Tell me why, T. Go.
It's her story, like from the beginning when you do the quest before Elsweyr even came out to the very end. Like the whole quest ends with her getting crowned, and it was just really good.
Did something happen?
What did something happen? What with Chimera? I mean, so what happened? T? Do you want to explain, like, just to remind people who might be listening and watching, and what happened? Who is Chimera? Like, what is she now? Like, it's ended. This is big spoilers. Yes.
Yeah, this is spoilerino territory. You haven't gotten the clue from the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, the entire time.
But I mean, you meet her and she's kind of already important. She has she works with the Speaker of the Main and all that, and she's obviously a big part of the rebellion with the Imperial invasion and all that. And she kind of has an ace up her sleeve during a very large battle when she reveals that she is the only remaining survivor of the previous king and queen line of that part of Elsweyr. And they were killed by the Imperials. So once she reveals that, like, it kind of rallies the Khajiit, I feel.
Yeah.
And they before that, it felt like everything was like, then a dragon comes and everything's destroyed. But after that point, is like, it kind of tilts back in their favor, where it's like, okay, they actually have a chance, instead of just being this like little sad group that keeps getting beaten up. And then you also get to learn a whole lot about her, not only her parents and stuff, but way back in her lineage. She's like, her relatives are a part of some pretty big Khajiit lore, and like folk tales, I guess, is kind of what they would call them in game. And you see these books. As I was doing the quest, I kept seeing these lore books about, all these tales, and I was like, are they gonna actually, like, we haven't really seen anything about that. Are they gonna mix it in at some point? And that ended up being like the way they ended up defeating the dragons, or pushing them back at least, was kind of almost recreating those initial stories.
That's always fun when stories do that. They hint at something in the past to foreshadow how things will work in the future.
Yeah, now, I kind of brought this up before the thing as well. And those stories kind of give me like an idea as well. That pendant that she wears, she mentions it helps her like keep invisible, and now knowing that it's like her mother is the one that held it, I'm kind of wondering if that is, what is it called, the Ring of Khajiit. Even though it's in a pendant form, I kind of wondering if that's what that is. It's like tied in with the Khajiit gods, and that's why she's having so much protection all the time.
Wait, what's
and
this?
It would make
what's
sense.
this? What's this ring of? What's this thing?
It's a Daedric artifact that shows up in many of the games that allows you to turn invisible, at least, among other things.
Yeah,
but usually it's a ring.
Yeah, usually it's a ring, and it's kind of tied in with Kenzari's Tale has the female protagonist there. I can't remember her name. And the thief god, Rajan.
Okay.
And one of his artifacts is the Ring of Khajiit, which is like how he manipulates and gets around and all this stuff. So, yeah, Regine, and eventually Regine stole the tattoo from the neck of Empress Kitel Tara as he slept. Yeah, so you got the link there on the USB. So that's why I was thinking that's what that pendant was, and that was kind of foreshadowing to that.
It's also related to Meridia and possibly Mafala. So
along with Jean, yep.
Damn, this is making me want to look all this stuff up. I'm just getting the link there. It's like, I'll look at this after as well. I feel like I want to do like a YouTube series on lore. I don't know why I'm feeling like this. So I can learn all this
There's
stuff. Like basic
there's a
stuff.
lot of stuff to go over, and there's a lot of conflicting stories and
Oh, it's all very interesting.
dragon
yeah,
bites.
that's true because you come from different.
It's
points
why
of
I'm never
view.
going to run out of any content.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
just
Like, I mean, I know the
so
stuff
much.
that I've played, but I haven't really. I mean, I do research for podcasts, but this is actually one of the most. Funnily enough, this is one of the most challenging ones because there is so much behind like all these stories. And I mean, T's talking about like all this stuff, and I'm like, Jesus, this is one story of Chimera and her family and the king and queen and those guys being killed as well when the Imperials come and Eurexia, and then there's that story, and then there's all the past before it, and you're talking about the ring, you're talking about the pendant, you're talking about all this stuff where you can get really involved and in depth with, and that's just one part of it. It's complete madness. It's awesome madness, because you can really go deep with it. It depends because the overarching easy storyline is not that simple, not that difficult to understand. Bad guys, dragons, you defeat them, person becomes good. Person becomes good. You've got the supporting heroes, you've got you've got eventually they win kind of this battle. They don't win the war yet. And then someone becomes queen, and it's not difficult to understand. But then you really can go in depth with it. And I think, Chimera is, I think for me, I think a few times I was like, I felt like she might have actually been, and I don't know if this is true, or maybe because I was kind of like more, whether or not I was just more interested in Cadwell. I think she felt like, did she feel like did they do a good job with her? And in the trailers they do. Do you think that
I said,
I don't know.
I think that she's an allegory replacement for Lyris in this, and then they give her a better. Then they give her royalty, which kind of makes her on the same par as Abner, so she can like go back and forth with him and her, like as like a matter of court type, like a political standpoint. They go back and forth, where Lyris never really could. She was just like, oh, I don't like the way you're talking to me. Punch the face.
Right.
So this is much more of an intellectual foil against Abner to go back for looking at the character. I felt they did a good job with her. The one thing that kind of bothered me with her, but I don't know if this is part of her story, is the way that she speaks. It's one of the few Khajiit characters out there that doesn't talk in the third person.
So we were having this discussion last night, and I didn't know. I was like, what? And then I started looking back, and I was like, oh yeah. So tell us more about this. What's this about?
Well, most Khajiit will talk in the third person, so like she would say, like, Chimera thinks that we should not go this route, or
this one is not happy to be here right now.
Yes,
that kind of thing.
Exactly.
That was a good impression.
And as they pointed out in Meet the Characters, she doesn't talk like this at all. She's a well-spoken, highly educated. Her cadence has none of the usual Khajiit structures or mannerisms, and she rarely, if ever, employs contractions as she speaks. So she's royalty, we find out, and I'm kind of wondering if that's part of her backstory, that royalty doesn't talk like Khajiit do, or she had some type of foreign influence, like a foreign tutor or something like that, to teach her not to speak like a Khajiit, because she'd have to go and do diplomatic things, and that would be like viewed as something that'd be poor. Or if it was just simply the writers couldn't get the actress to agree to talk to in third person so much, so they kind of had to bend the rules for it a little bit.
Well, I have a feeling it makes her more relatable to us because we don't speak that way. That's one of the one of the reasons I think that they have Khajiit speak that way, is because it makes them feel foreign. Yeah. And this is a character they want us to identify with and feel more connected to, and feel like we can be her,
Is Raz like that though? I mean, we can connect with Raz, can't we? Quite I think
sometimes Raz does use I, and I mentioned this in the conversation in the chat that the group of us had. It's either Raz or some other main Khajiit characters. I'd have to go back and play, but there are definitely times when they say I, and I know this because when I would stream the game and go through storylines, I often will read out the text.
Right.
And if it's a Khajiit, I will do the Khajiit voice, right, as I read it. But sometimes they say I, and I'm in like that part of my brain is like, what? Wait, no, I shouldn't say that. I have to translate it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it does
but
happen.
She very rarely, if ever. I don't think I saw her once talk in the third person. So I was just thinking it'd be interesting if it was like a play on like the UK royal family. Like the royal family always has like the royal we. They always talk in the third person.
Mhm.
But in a culture that's always talking in the third person, maybe the royalty talks in the first. That'd be an interesting way to handle it, I guess.
Yeah, it may be just part of being just more educated and, thrown into a world where you are mixing with cultures.
Yeah, well, the whole Khajiit speak is a little weird because it's supposed to be spiritual, and they don't really have the concept of I. They have a concept of we, like a wholeness to it. If I remember calling it correctly, so the entire thing is that like they learn to speak common and from their original speak, and their language doesn't really have the word I in it, from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean there are languages even here where people, there's no word for thank you, for example. It's just like there are languages like that where they don't have like main words that we might. Yeah, so yeah, I guess I mean, I'm thinking about Raz, and I'm like, okay, maybe that's actually something that happened. I just never realized. That's what I like about
Raz.
this game. Crazy.
Yeah, Raz might be the exception, but well, a lot of Khajiit might be the exception, but he has to pretend to be a person or a diplomat or something else like that at times. So him understanding how to do I and how somebody else was a one quest there. He becomes Iran for body double. He has to. He talks like a Khajiit for a second or two, and he's like, "Oh no, I have to talk like this now, and I am talking like this." That was a nice little touch that I remember.
Huh. Okay. But like the whole Chimera thing as well, like just in general, I think she was good, but then for me, I did like the end. She was made a fuss of at the end, actually. To be honest, I mean she was. I mean it was about her becoming queen. That was cool. And I thought it was deserved. That like she obviously should be. Although actually, to be fair, aren't they technically she's the queen, but then someone's coming along to say that they've got to check her claim. Because isn't this going to be a big part of it? Like they're going to check her claim that she actually is the person she says she is. Obviously,
I was almost expecting a twist then, like finding out that she was like a handmaid to the queen or something like that. I
mean, that would be interesting.
I never thought of that because you run into that one older character who knows exactly who she is.
Yeah.
Almost immediately, he's like, "Oh my god, it's you!" And you're like, "Yeah, she's." And once you find out that one guy is the old King's Claw, like he knew right away. Well, he knew all along. A lot of them did. And you were kind of the one who found out along with the general public.
There is
keeping her protected.
So they may all know, but there is someone who's challenging this. There is someone who's going to find out that she's definitely who she says, even though we know and other people know. But just to double check. All they
needed was somebody to confirm it, basically. And
you don't think it's going to be a major thing?
They ended up doing it. No, I think they closed it out at the end of the story. Like I think it's the main speaker, I think, was the one who ended up being
right.
You almost end up being, and then he's like, "Hey, I'm here. You can just stand here and be support." And you're like, "Oh, okay."
I do think that they kind of robbed her of a few opportunities there. I was almost expecting her to handle Euraxia in her end instead of having us do it. Like I was expecting that moment where she would come, like, get the hell off my throne and just like kick her out or something like that. I would have loved to see that, but it didn't really.
They were trying to show that she got kind of emotionally compromised, though. I think with the whole
the parents thing,
having her parents reanimated. Not only reanimated,
that hit me
up. Like unburied. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
And then they also killed Nalado, which seemed to be kind of like her role model, and she gets struck down at the same time. So it was like she had no chance to celebrate Rexia's death. She had no idea what to do about
Right.
Malado.
But it would have been like terrific though if like at the last second, like you get HP, she stuns you, and then Chimera comes up and just like stabs her back and being like, "Yeah, I'm done with your crap." That I was waiting for that moment. I just felt like it just never came.
Yeah.
She didn't. She was a great help. She was a great support on a lot of the quest here, but I just felt she never had that one win. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That moment of like she gets to
she had
really claim it herself.
the clip.
Yeah, but you're fighting the dragon at the same time, right? So which takes the pride? Like one kind of overshadows the other.
Maybe, yeah.
She was like, I know now I'm starting to remember it and the mother and father, because I completely forgot that they got reanimated. I actually feel really bad. I was like, Jesus Christ! Now I've got, and the fact because I was the one who had to kill them, I was like, oh, okay, cool, thanks for that. I'll just kill her parents again. And then, but then afterwards, I remember this voice line because I remember thinking she was quite cold. But I think it was just her way of getting through it, and also she was technically right. You know, they're not her mum and dad anymore. You know,
that was just their bodies.
Yeah, there's just their bodies. I'm strong. You know, I know this. And then I kind of was like, okay, she knows who she is. She's kind of she's a very strong character, and she just knows what she has to do, and she's getting on with her job, with her, you know, role, whatever, as a hero, really, which is what she is.
But as Abner points out, though, she's extremely reckless. Like, remember now, she's the last of her bloodline, right? And rather than try to preserve that royal bloodline, she's throwing herself out right on the front lines.
Right, attacking dragons.
Yeah, I mean, have, utmost respect for people that will go up to the front and represent. But when you're the last of that line and you're meant to lead, and you're putting yourself on that line, that's a huge risk.
It's
I
brave,
kind of
but
chalked it up
it's also
to
foolish.
survivor's guilt.
Sorry?
I kind of chalked it up to survivor's guilt. Well, like her entire family died. She was the only one left. She didn't really, I don't think she cared as much about the whole queen thing as just making sure the Galaxia and her crew and the dragons were taken care of.
That's right. It didn't feel like as if she was that bothered, actually, because it was never really a focus, was it? It was like, yeah, I can be queen, and I will be queen because I can, you know. I don't know whether or not it's because I should be or because I want to be. I don't think it was want to be, but she was very she was reckless. I mean, the thing that came up in my head against psychology term is almost a death wish kind of thing. It's not like it's not necessarily a thing where you want to die, but it's more of a thing where, like T kind of says, you're almost pushing the boundaries and testing things, and like, yeah, it's interesting. I did really enjoy it. Actually, thinking back, she had some crazy stuff going on. Poor girl. As for a lady, she's just like, oh, parents coming back to life. She's got to be a queen now. She's got so much shit to deal with. And then the dragons and the continuing of what's going to go on, obviously, in the next DLCs. Does anyone else want to say anything else about Chimera at all?
Not a Chimera. I can think of anything else.
Okay. Oh, what time is it? When time did you write that message? Okay, we're not going to be that much longer. Probably about 10 minutes, if that's all right. Just, nod, shake your heads, whatever, that's fine.
That's fine.
We kind of went through Abner a bit, so I am going to skip over him a little bit. I do just want to say that, obviously, I felt like Abner, obviously, he feels like he has a lot of responsibility because he does, because he let dragons loose. He's the whole reason we've got the whole year of the dragon in the first place, and because we found the flipping tablets as well for him, or the halves of the tablets, sorry. Obviously, he's battling his sister. He kills her. Oh no, sorry, we kill her. Or he? Wait, did we kill her or did he kill her?
We killed her.
We did kill her, didn't we? He didn't get like the last blow or something.
He doesn't seem too torn up about it either.
No, he doesn't, does he?
Yeah.
I'm wondering how many.
He says, I'm not known for being sentimental or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. He just knew that she had to die. Basically, it felt like. But there was this whole thing about which we talked about earlier a bit more in depth about his age and him being very aware of that and the feeling that the feeling of retirement and is he and this is up in the air. It's like is he just going to retire and kind of just go and get on a beach somewhere and just hang out, or is he going to die? Like, I mean, those are the two extremes of the situation.
Or goes to undeath. That'd be the other one.
Oh God. We can go with that.
He says he doesn't have any qualms against necromancy, so Lich isn't a thing to keep him away from it, right?
True. We can get our own little Abnar fan pet. That would be interesting. But yeah, I think in terms of the actual story and everything else, again, podcast is very difficult to talk about all the content, like even to like today, trying to pick up the Elsweyr main story. We go into other bits and there is a lot of discussion to be had, so maybe I'll try and pick up specifics in further ones. But after all this happened, we're now at the point where Chimera's going to be queen. We're going south into southern Elsweyr, and Scalebreaker is actually the next DLC, which is in Q3. It's actually going to be 2 dungeons called Moongrave Fane. Is it Moongrave Fane and the lair of Marsalok?
Marsalok. Is that a dragon name?
Don't say that, because now I will go and look it up and translate.
Yeah, it looks like a dragon name.
You might actually be right. Yeah. Oh, good lord.
Dragons have lairs, so that could be fun.
True. This is true. It's been going on for a while. But yeah, there are those, and it was remarked on the website, on the official site. It says not all want to destroy the legendary beasts, dragons. And the Halls of Colossus was not the only place that held dragons. We know that because I asked T this question yesterday on a Twitch stream. I said, T, what is the dragon called in the dragon event that happens in Elsweyr? Because if that's one of the dragons in the story, that would be weird because we kind of kill him and they just come back to life. The dragon's called Dragon, right, T?
Yeah, I mean he has a name. We just don't know it, right?
Oh yeah, he definitely has a name.
Like if we're an adventure and we see a dragon, we're not like, what is his name? We're like, oh my god, it's a dragon! Kill him! You know, like that's kind of what you would do instead of talking about him, trying to see what his name is.
Oh, obviously, yeah. But like,
exactly.
But it gives you the idea that it's dragons. Effectively, it's not maybe the same one. It's just the same color dragon or whatever. Or you can imagine it. That's probably why they've called it dragon. Because there are other dragons, and I guess this lair is one of the places we go to find. There must be another dragon then, because it does sound like a dragon name. You're right.
Yeah, and you've got the quote here from the site saying that the Halls of Colossus were not the only place that held dragons. So,
yep, that's right.
There's opportunity for us to find more.
It'd be interesting to see if we have another. Yeah, Skyrim would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see if we have another dragon that's like not hostile and it's actually kind of a ally to humanity. Like we have like the one
Parthenax equivalent.
Yeah. Parthenax.
Like it can't. Parthenax can't be like the exception, right? Like there's got to be other dragons that are sympathetic to humanity.
I hope so.
Or at least cats, because they're all just big cats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe. Hopefully. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. But that's going to be interesting in itself. But they are saying it will have something to do with the story that's currently going on. Obviously, that makes sense. New rewards in the dungeons, so we may see new skins. Obviously, in the 2 dungeons that got introduced this year, if you just did vet on was it Depths of Malatar, you got the skin. If you just did vet, you didn't need to do hard mode.
If you do everything, you get the mount. So that's something new.
If you do everything, you get the mount. There you go. I don't think there's gonna be doesn't look like a new trial, I don't think, this year, because we've already had one. I
wouldn't discount that though. Remember, we had last year we had Vanderfall, and then we had which came with Colossus, or no, not Colossus, Halls of Fabrication.
Okay.
And then we had Clockwork City, which had Asylum.
Was that last year?
Mm-hmm.
That was the year before.
Oh, no, year before.
That was March.
Sorry.
Yeah. More. Yeah. I think that was before. Because I think only one trial came out last year, didn't it?
We had Somerset with
Cloud
Cloud Rest, and then we had.
I think it was only one.
Was there only one?
I mean, I started playing in April, so I don't know.
They only did one last year.
No.
Because...
Yes, they did. They had Black Rose Prison, which is considered an arena, which is considered trial.
That's an arena.
Okay. All right. In terms of the traditional trial, I guess. Not the traditional, because I see we can consider that. But like 12 man. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Well, they could have a mini trial, or they could have another arena. What I'm really hoping for is a 2-man arena. I would love a 2-man.
I don't think they're gonna do another mini trial for a while because everyone hated them, and they were kind of.
Oh really?
Then they're like, "We got the hint. Here is the not mini trial."
Oh, okay.
But I think a 2-man would be interesting. So you could like go in with like a tank DPS, a tank healer, a DPS healer, DPS with healing backgrounds for other things. I would love to see something like that.
All right. Fair play. Okay, so we are gonna have obviously tons more rewards. So it's less. It's not new map or anything. It is just the dungeons. But that is August. So November is gonna be Dragonhold DLC, which is gonna be the end of the Year of the Dragon. So obviously a new zone in southern Elsweyr called Palatine. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. A lawless
Southern Elsweyr.
Awesome. A lawless wasteland impacted by a deadly plague almost 20 years ago, apparently.
Canathan flu.
The Canatan flu, yeah.
What is that?
It was the flu the slow
lot.
released into the world, isn't that the origin?
Well, it's debatable if it was the slowed or if it was machinations of Periite.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Either way, it was bad news. A bunch of people died.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to the end. So literally the end of the Year of the Dragon. We're literally going to a place where the plague is, whereas the literal end for some people. Cool. Makes sense.
If you also notice, there are like in the Bandari crates, if I remember correctly, there's supposedly Periite stuff coming into it as well.
Oh, that's cool.
I think I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
In the,
I would like a plague skin that's a bit like the zombie one. I would like that, like the flu kind of like looking.
Some sort of green pus coming out of your face.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would
I'm pretty sure
You kinda
there
get that with
actually is one.
Yeah, you actually have the
Alright.
robes there you get from Oakrest as well.
Okay. Those are possibilities.
And yeah, I think the flu
Thrashian plague was
was
the
originally from the aliens.
Oh yeah.
And
There you
there was like I don't know if it was actually released by the Argonians, but a lot of people blame the Argonians for it, and they yes,
It's not our fault.
yes, because they
Katie,
don't.
Got calm down
They
there
have a
with
lot of
your.
immunities
She's
to such
against
things,
Argonians,
and
I swear.
it's right next to Elsweyr, and it spread like wildfire and killed off like tons of Khajiit. Like
Yep.
it was really bad. It was part of the reason that
I'm
the
sorry.
Khajiit joined the Dominion and all that.
I'm
So
sorry.
Because
it's a
the-
big part of the story of ESO.
Right, yeah.
The high elves saved the Khajiit from that flu and all that stuff.
Right. Okay.
Though I do remember hearing other people like speculate if the high elves were the ones that actually released it and then blamed the Argonians.
That's what I mean. I don't know if it was actually
Yeah, it was
Argonians.
definitely.
It
Don't
very
start
well could've-
blaming us without proof, T. Jesus. Honestly.
You're the neighbors. Get along.
Good lord. I like cats, I guess. So DLC, that's also awesome to know. A couple of bits I didn't know there, so that's good. In this DLC, with our allies, including Sai, we will reform the ancient Dragon Guard, develop powerful new tools and weapons, and put an end to the Dragon Menace. And that is from the website specifically. We're going to get new quests, world bosses, delves, public dungeons, and dragon events. Just very, very quickly, what are you guys looking forward to? Just the storyline of this, the end, the culmination of what's going to happen. Like, what is that? What you guys are looking for? What are you looking forward to?
I'm interested to see how it wraps up and everyone's reactions to it and what that means for the series moving forward. Are we going to see another full year-long season? I have a feeling they're probably planning on that. But every time they learn something, they get better. So it's I don't know.
Yep.
It's exciting to be part of a game that with continual improvement like this.
Definitely. Like I said, Alfiq, I'm waiting for the playable Alfiq, please.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Oh,
Could just imagine PvP players like complaining then. Small to hit.
Forgot. T. What are you looking forward to specifically? Is there anything you're looking forward to more? The dungeons or the main story or just all of it? You're just hyped about the whole
I'm honestly just excited for more Khajiit lore and more exploring Elsweyr. I'm just happy we're getting another zone. Like,
Yeah.
yay.
We're going to have a complete
I've been
Elsweyr.
waiting a long time for this thing.
Yeah, I know. You are very excited whenever, well, you are anyway, but like whenever I go into the stream, it does seem like you're enjoying yourself quite a lot with all the new content. It's good to see. I think you're all right. You're both sort of saying you're excited for the future. They're learning all the time. I mean, I definitely think the worst is behind them, and that was launch. I mean, you can get over that. What happened there? I mean, some streamers and some people, I think, they forget. Obviously, the game is awesome and they love it, and we're partners, and some of us in the stream team and whatnot. But I'm not really afraid of saying and speaking my mind. The game was not that great when it launched. It just wasn't. I mean, the quests were awesome and everything else. In terms of combat and some of the stuff that was there, it was a big turn off for a lot of players, and they turned it around then, and I think that one of the best things I've ever seen anyone do is have a roadmap for an MMO at the start of the year to the end of the year. I mean, bloody hell. Not many people do that. I don't think I can't roll off my head any MMO that's done that. And if they have, they might be smaller because they've got that, they're able to do that kind of thing because, it's just not much content. I don't know. But BFA for WoW was just like, there's BFA, this is coming out. There you go. Cool. Let's get hype about that expansion. But like, this is like an expansion and 3 DLCs. It's crazy.
Well, I do see roadmaps for other games, but typically they're live. Things like your Rainbow Six Siege and all these other games out there that are just like kind of small updates, not the major scale MMO stuff that you see here. And it's definitely improved a lot. I'd probably say the biggest thing I see that they've improved upon, and the one thing I keep on harping that they need to improve upon, is commercials and cinematics. Like the art department. And we mentioned kind of before the podcast here, the first cinematics they put in there, the art department just went ham and didn't talk to anyone who actually developed the game, it seemed, because there's a lot of stuff and visuals in there. Even the area that they had showing, like, they're on top of a mountain with 2 rivers running into the White Gold Tower. That doesn't exist inside Cyrodiil. And it was like, the art department went ahead and made these great visuals, but didn't match anything of the gameplay. Now you take a look at this last trailer. A lot of the abilities that you have inside the game are a part of the trailer. You see the characters that you can see right in the game. You had the events, you had the lore, the structure. Everything looks like it came out of the game and had just a higher resolution cinematic to it, which I think was great.
That was the Bone Colossus. When we saw a character turn into Bone Colossus, I was like,
well, it not just that, it had the little things too. It had the restoration staff ability from Abner. You had the lockdown effect that they had as well.
Foot, yeah.
I think a lot of abilities that just came in and like they show the same color of the abilities being used by so they're really highlighting the expansion on that.
Okay.
One of my big things I always enjoy is seeing how talking about art and graphics and that kind of thing. When there is a new zone, the quality of everything from like the textures on the walls to the architecture to all of that stuff is just something that's infinitely enjoyable as I run around, and it really feels like it's a new place.
It does feel like what they it's like if you look at Elsweyr, I mean, if you think about like the zone, because if I think about an expansion, you think about WoW, you think about Guild Wars 2, which is the other MMO I played more up until recently, is that they released like 7 or 8 maps, and you go through them and they're done. This is just a very quick comment because we're going to go very shortly. But it's just Elsweyr, and it is a small, like it doesn't look like a big map, but you play it. And you play through the story, and you go through the delves and the public dungeons, which are massive. And then you go through the quest lines, and it's like, I easily spent as much time on this as I did on 7 maps in like the WoW expansion or the Guild Wars 2 expansion and everything, because they really refine and make those areas look and feel good. They've got verticality, but it's not, you don't get lost.
They don't reuse assets a lot. They make assets for the area, and then make sure it's like specific to that area. It doesn't look the same as every other area. And the ones they reuse make sense.
Yeah, they're like the actual, like it's another dungeon, like that dungeon style.
Another barrel, which is always going to look the same, right?
Yeah. There was a side quest I did the other day. Oh, I can't remember, what was it? Imperial. It was a really awesome side quest. Anyway, I have to talk about that another time. But they basically recreated, it was actually, I'm not going to say anything because it might be spoilers for side quests. I'm not going to do that. Because people. I could
get into an entire discussion on side quests because I'm loving what I'm doing there so far.
Yeah, they are really good. So yeah, if you've not got into them yet and you think the main story was good, go and do the side quests. There are cats. There are small cats you can talk to. There are ghosts. There are spirits. There are loads of awesome things, and I'm not going to say anything else. Okay. Is there anything you guys want to finish with specifically that you wanted to remark on and that we didn't mention you wanted to mention very, very quickly?
If I was going to recommend side quests, probably do the Stitches quest, and I'd also recommend the Two Moons Temple quest.
Okay, I don't think I've done that one. I think I did that one. Maybe I did.
Yeah, I got through the Stitches quest not too long ago. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Or anything just generally about the story or anything we've talked about today. Anyone want to mention it? T, is there anything you wanted to talk about very quickly before we head off? We're pretty much done.
I guess just if you haven't played Elsweyr yet, just go and explore and have fun. Like, I feel like sometimes people just rush through things, and like even when we were talking about, I was doing a trial last night, and one of my viewers said that was the first time they ever heard the story for Ethereum Archive. And that just struck me. I was like, oh my god, there's some cool stuff going on in these trials and dungeons and these zones. When you're doing side quests or main quests, read the pages and books that are there. Very often there's a ton of story that you're missing out on.
Did you in the new tutorial area, and actually this is also in the Riverdale? No, not Riverdale. Either way, the place where they're doing most of the stuff. There's a book there called The Angry Alfiq. Go read it.
Oh my god. I knew.
Okay.
Not Rimmon, it's the other area. The one they're basing their attack out of. Riverhold. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Go and read the book, people. Go read the book. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Right. If you've been watching here on Twitch, thank you very much. If you've been listening elsewhere, or you've been on YouTube, thank you very much as well. Just to finish with, we're just gonna do a little bit of an outro as we normally do. Let's start with Hero of None. Where can we find you on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube? Tell us.
Hero of None. Quick. Hero of None. HEROOFNONE on Twitch and YouTube's. I put out videos, and I'll probably be putting out a slew of our side quest and main quest videos hereabouts. But I do recommend people to do the quest yourselves before you watch those. It's more enjoyable, I think, to actually do the quest and then kind of see how somebody else took it. But yeah.
Awesome. T, the Khajiit, where can we find you on all the things?
I'm most active on Twitch and Twitter, where I am T_the_Khajiit.
Awesome. So go follow all the Twitters and all the things like that. And finally, last but not least, I don't know what that means. ESOLorecast, who came out for us today. I mean, he was ill this morning, so I appreciate.
Yeah,
you
I
being
get
here,
migraines, and I'm feeling better. Took some meds, got some sleep. I'm glad I made it. This has been a lot of fun.
For sure.
Hanging out, talking all this stuff with you guys. You can listen to my show, Elder Scrolls Lorecast, on every podcatcher everywhere, Spotify, iTunes, any of those places. I've even got some videos up for some of them. Not real video content, just more of like, those little bars that move when I talk on the YouTube channel. So anything else I'm doing, you can find at robotsradio.net. Follow me on Robots Radio on Twitch. Sometimes I stream just for fun. And if you're into the Twitter, if you want to follow at ESOLorecast, that's the Elder Scrolls Lorecast Twitter account where I announce all the fun stuff. So yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for all the conversation, all the fun.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for having us.
There's a mini massive clap from me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. You can check this out on YouTube, Spotify, all the sound places. And I just want to say thank you very much as well to anyone that is listening out there on Anchor, on Spotify, on iTunes, because we are about to celebrate 1,000 total listens on all the podcasts audibly. And that's very, very awesome. I am the host and the creator of the podcast, The New Companions. I am Jebro. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/JebroUnity, and that's the same for Twitter, JebroUnity, as well as YouTube, Facebook, and all the things. Make sure you go and follow The New Companions on anywhere, so you can also listen to the bi-weekly podcast. Happens every 2 weeks. We cover most subjects: PvP, Cyrodiil, PvE. It's the first time we've really tackled some story, and we have new guests pretty much every week. So if you are interested, come and join us then. Otherwise, thank you very much from me and from the rest of the people on the New Companions this week. We thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye bye, people. You can wave if you want to.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.